we wait. Oh, the game's crashing again. This game doesn't handle too well, does it? Live now.
I don't do good with terms. So, we started talking.
Welcome back to the show.
Project at CERN. We've talked about basically the claims that the Podestas could be have something to do with the White Rabbits. I mean, we went everywhere in 2 weeks because everyone's been emailing me, hey, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. My channel did
13 views.
I don't do good with terms. So, we started talking.
Welcome back to the show.
Project at CERN. We've talked about basically the claims that the Podestas could.
You have owners. They own you. They own
George Carlin. All right.
You don't understand how many really stupid people you run into during the day. God damn, there's a lot of stupid bastards walking around. Carry a little pad and pencil with you. You wind up with 30 or 40 names by the end of the day. Look at it this way. Think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that. And it doesn't take you very long to spot one of them, does it? Take you about 8 seconds. You'll be listening to some guy. You say, this guy is fucking stupid. You can say what you want about this country, and I love this place. I love the freedoms we used to have. I love it. I love that. I love it when it didn't take a fucking catastrophe to get us to care for one another. I love the fact that we're on camera all the time from all angles. But you know what? You can say what you want about America. And I say I love this place. I wouldn't have it any other way. Wouldn't live in any other time in history in any other place. But say what you want about America. Land of the free, home of the brave. We got some dumbass motherfuckers floating around this country. Dumbass motherfuckers. You know? These people are efficient, professional, compulsive consumers. It's their civic duty. Consumption. It's the new national pastime. Fuck baseball. It's consumption. The only true, lasting American value that's left, buying things. Buying things. People spending money they don't have on things they don't need. Money they don't have on things they don't need. So they can max out their credit cards and spend the rest of their lives paying 18% interest on something that costs $12.50. And they didn't like it when they got it home anyway. Not too bright, folks. Not too fucking bright. But if you talk to one of them about this, if you isolate one of them, you sit them down rationally, and you talk to them about the low IQs and the dumb behavior and the bad decisions, right away they start talking about education. That's the big answer to everything. Education. They say we need more money for education. We need more books, more teachers, more classrooms, more schools. We need more testing for the kids. You say to them, well, you know, we've tried all of that, and the kids still can't pass the test. So, don't you worry about that. We're going to lower the passing grades. That's what they do in a lot of these schools now. They lower the passing grades so more kids can pass. More kids pass, the school looks good, everybody's happy, the IQ of the country slips another 2 or 3 points, and pretty soon all you'll need to get into college is a fucking pencil. Got a pencil? Get the fuck in there. It's physics. Then everyone wonders why 17 other countries graduate more scientists than we do. Hey, living in a coast-to-coast shopping mall? Well, they think it's just fucking dandy. They think it is cool as can be, because Americans love the mall. They love the mall. That's where they get to satisfy their 2 most prominent addictions at the same time. Shopping and eating. Millions of semi-conscious Americans, day after day, shuffling through the malls, shopping and eating, especially eating. Americans love to eat. They are fatally attracted to the slow death of fast food. Folks, living in this country, you're bound to know that every time you're exposed to advertising, you realize once again that America's leading industry, America's most profitable business is still the manufacture, packaging, distribution, and marketing of bullshit. High quality, grade A, prime cut, pure American bullshit. And the sad part is that most people seem to have been indoctrinated to believe that bullshit only comes from certain places. Certain sources, advertising, politics, salesmen, not true.
Hey, welcome to the show. About to go on some offensive operations.
Teachers are full of shit, clergymen are full of shit, and law enforcement people are full of shit. This entire country.
This entire country is completely full of shit, and always has been. From the Declaration of Independence to the Constitution to the Star-Spangled Banner, it's still nothing more than one big steaming pile of red, white, and blue all-American bullshit. Because think of how we started. Think of that. This country was founded by a group of slave owners who told us all men are created equal. Yeah, all men, except for Indians and niggers and women, right? Always like to use that authentic American language. This was a small group of unelected white male land-holding slave owners who also suggested their class be the only one allowed to vote. Now that is what's known as being stunningly and embarrassingly full of shit. And I think Americans
I forgot the unit cap.
Ignorance when they say they want their politicians to be honest. What are these fucking cretins talking about?
Tell the truth. Don't be bullshitting people. Like I say, there's enough bullshit as it is. There's enough bullshit as it is. In fact, there's just enough. Did you know that? There's just enough bullshit to hold things together in this country. Bullshit is the glue that binds us as a nation. Where would we be without our safe, familiar American bullshit? Land of the free, home of the brave, the American dream. All men are equal, justice is blind, the press is free, your vote counts. Business is honest, the good guys win. The police are on your side. God is watching you. Your standard of living will never decline. And everything is going to be just fine. The official national bullshit story. I call it the American Okie-doke. That's what they do with that kind of stuff. They put it in the heads of kids, they pound it in there because they know kids are too young to be able to mount a sophisticated argument against these kind of ideas. And so, and up to a certain age, by the way, kids are going to believe everything a grown-up tells them. Everything. So kids never learn to question things. Nobody questions things in this country anymore. Nobody questions things. Why? People are too fat and happy. People are way too fucking prosperous for their own good. Everyone's got a cell phone that'll make pancakes and rub their balls now, you know? So, nobody wants to rock the boat. And people just, gizmos. Americans have been silenced, bought off and silenced by gizmos and toys. And as a result, no one's ever learned to question things. No one questions things. No one does. War, disease, death, destruction, hunger, filth, poverty, torture, crime, corruption, and the ice capades. Something is definitely wrong. Things that are pissing me off, because I don't have pet peeves. I have major psychotic fucking hatreds, okay? And it makes the world a lot easier to sort out. You know what would be great for a guy like me? Just to be in a coma. Wouldn't that be great? Nothing to do all day. You just crap out and breathe through a fucking tube. It feeds you through a tube. There's nothing to do. Whoa, you talk about being a couch potato. That's it, man. No phone calls coming in. Nobody dropping by unexpectedly. And if they do drop by, you're completely unaware of it. Because you're in a fucking coma. And you're practically clinically dead. And you don't have to listen to their stupid shit.
Can be blamed on the baby boomers. Something else I'm a little tired of hearing about. The baby boomers. Whiny, narcissistic, self-indulgent people with a simple philosophy. Give me it, it's mine! Give me that, it's mine! These people were given everything. Everything was handed to them. And they took it all. Took it all. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And they stayed loaded for 20 years and had a free ride. But now they're staring down the barrel of middle-age burnout. And they don't like it. They don't like it, so they turn self-righteous. And they want to make things hard on younger people. They tell them abstain from sex. Say no to drugs. As for the rock and roll, they sold that for television commercials a long time ago. So they could buy pasta machines and Stairmasters and soybean futures. Soybean futures. They're cold, bloodless people. It's in their slogans, it's in their rhetoric. No pain, no gain. Just do it. Life is short, play hard. Shit happens, deal with it. Get a life. These people went from do your own thing to just say no. They went from love is all you need to whoever winds up with the most toys wins. And they went from cocaine to Rogaine. Airport security is a stupid idea, it's a waste of money, and it's only there for one reason, to make white people feel safe. That's all. The illusion, the feeling and delusion of safety. Because the authorities know they can't make an airplane completely safe. Too many people have access. You'll notice the drug smugglers don't seem to have a lot of trouble getting their little packages on board, do they? No, and God bless them too. As far as I'm concerned, all of this airport security, all the searches, the screenings, the cameras, the questions, it's just one more way of reducing your liberty and reminding you that they can fuck with you anytime they want. As long as you put up with it.
Loading screen.
Anytime they want. Because that's what Americans do.
Did you know that you can assign perks to units?
A little of their freedom in exchange for the feeling, the illusion of security. What we have now is a completely neurotic population obsessed with security,
Why am I doing this?
crime, and drugs,
Skip,
and
skip, skip.
cleanliness, and hygiene, and germs. There's another thing. Germs. Where did this sudden fear of germs come from?
Finally.
You notice this? The media constantly running stories about all the latest infections, salmonella, E. coli, hantavirus, bird flu, and Americans they panic easily, so now everybody's running around scrubbing this and spraying that and overcooking their food and repeatedly washing their hands, trying to avoid all contact with germs. It's ridiculous, and it goes to ridiculous lengths.
Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pocket.
488.
And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table to figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork, and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later, because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same big club they use to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people. White collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. The public sucks. Fuck hope. Fuck hope. Because if it's really just the fault of these politicians, then where are all the other bright people of conscience? Where are all the bright, honest, intelligent Americans ready to step in and save the nation and lead the way? We don't have people like that in this country. Everybody's at the mall, scratching his ass, picking his nose, taking his credit card out of his fanny pack and buying a pair of sneakers with lights in them. So I have solved this little political dilemma for myself in a very simple way.
On election day, I stay home. I don't vote. Fuck them. Fuck them. I don't vote. Two reasons I don't vote. First of all, it's meaningless. This country was bought and sold and paid for a long time ago. The shit they shuffle around every 4 years doesn't mean a fucking thing. And secondly, I don't vote because I believe if you vote, you have no right to complain.
And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on, the fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being
What you doing there, little grunt?
every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Look at things anymore, sort of take them in, maybe even remember them. Is that such a strange notion? Does experience have to be documented and brought home and saved on a shelf? And do people really watch this shit? Are people's lives so bankrupt they sit at home looking at things they already did?
The steam movement began in 1970, and I'm happy to say it has been a complete failure. Because studies have repeatedly shown that having high self-esteem does not improve grades, does not improve career achievement, it does not even lower the use of alcohol, and most certainly does not reduce the incidence of violence of any sort. Because as it turns out, extremely aggressive, violent people think very highly of themselves. Imagine that. Sociopaths have high self-esteem. Oh, what a fun, huh? I love when this kind of thing happens. I love when these politically correct ideas crash and burn and wind up in the shithouse.
Yeah.
Tell you what you can say and what you can't say. Government wants to tell you some things you can't say because they're against the law. Or you can't say this because it's against the regulation. Or here's something you can't say because it's a secret. You can't tell him that because he's not clear to know that. Government wants to control information and control language because that's the way you control thought. And basically that's the game they're in. Same with religion. Religion is nothing but mind control. Religion is just trying to control your mind, control your thoughts. So they're going to tell you some things you shouldn't say because they're sins. And besides telling you things you shouldn't say, religion's going to suggest to you some things you ought to be saying. Here's something you ought to say first thing when you wake up in the morning. Here's something you ought to say just before you go to sleep at night. Here's something we always say on the third Wednesday in April after the first full moon in spring at 4 o'clock when the bells ring. Religion is always suggesting things you ought to be saying. Same with political groups of all kinds. Political activists, anti-bias groups, special interest groups are going to suggest the correct political vocabulary, the way you ought to be saying things, and that's where the feminists come in. Now, as I said, I got nothing against the feminists. In fact, I happen to agree with most of the feminist philosophy I have read. I agree, for instance, that for the most part, men are vain, ignorant, greedy, brutal assholes who just about ruined this planet. Who just about ruined this planet because they're afraid someone might have a bigger dick out there somewhere.
You know what they ought to do? They ought to have 2 new requirements for being on the police. Intelligence and decency. You never can tell. It might just work. It certainly hasn't been tried yet. It's one of these things we tell ourselves so we'll feel noble. Life is sacred. Makes you feel noble. Well, let me ask you this. If everything that ever lived is dead, and everything alive is going to die, where does the sacred part come in? I'm having trouble with that. Because, I mean, even with this stuff we preach about the sanctity of life, we don't practice it. We don't practice it. Look at what we kill. Mosquitoes and flies, because they're pests. Lions and tigers, because it's fun. Chickens and pigs, because we're hungry. Pheasants and quail, because it's fun. And we're hungry. And people, we kill people, because they're pests. And it's fun. I'm looking for. Conservatives want live babies so they can raise them to be dead soldiers. Pro-life. Pro-life. These people aren't pro-life, they're killing doctors. What kind of pro-life is that? What, they'll do anything they can to save a fetus, but if it grows up to be a doctor, they just might have to kill it? They're not pro-life. You know what they are? They're anti-woman. Simple as it gets. Anti-woman. They don't like them. The children. Help the children. What about the children? Save the children. You know what I say? Fuck the children. Fuck them. They're getting entirely too much attention. And I know what you're thinking. You say, Jesus, he's not going to attack children, is he? Yes, he is. He's going to attack children. And remember, this is Mr. Conductor talking. I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. And I also know all you single dads and soccer moms who think you're such fucking heroes aren't going to like this, but somebody's got to tell you for your own good, your children are overrated and overvalued. You've turned them into little cult objects. You have a child fetish, and it's not healthy. And don't give me that weak...
What up, Rio?
I love my children. Fuck you.
He's grinding out some cash, some munitions,
Doesn't make you special.
listening to George Carlin.
The Bible is just one more way of controlling people and keeping them in line, and it's one more thing that holds us back as a species. Here's one more item for you, the last in our civics book, rights. Boy, everyone in this country goes running around yammering about their fucking rights. I have a right, you have no right, we have a right, they don't have a right. Folks, I hate to spoil your fun, but there's no such thing as rights, okay? They're imaginary. We made them up, like the boogeyman. The Three Little Pigs, Pinocchio, Mother Goose, shit like that. Rights are an idea. They're just imaginary. They're a cute idea. Cute. But that's all. Cute and fictional. But if you think you do have rights, let me ask you this. Where do they come from? People say, well, they come from God. They're God-given rights. Oh, fuck, here we go again.
Yeah. Go get that RPG.
The God excuse. The last refuge of a man with no answers and no argument. It came from God. Anything we can't describe must have come from God. Personally, folks, I believe that if your rights came from God, He would have given you the right to some food every day, and He would have given you the right to a roof over your head. God would have been looking out for you. God would have been looking out for you. You know that?
One, pray for anything, but what about the divine plan? Remember that? The divine plan. Long time ago, God made a divine plan. Gave it a lot of thought, decided it was a good plan, put it into practice. And for billions and billions of years, the divine plan has been doing just that.
Incoming!
Now you come along and praise. Well, suppose the thing you want isn't in God's divine plan. What do you want him to do? Change his plan? Just for you? Doesn't it seem a little arrogant? It's a divine plan. What's the use of being God if every rundown schmuck with a $2 prayer book can come along and fuck up your plan? And here's something else, another problem you might have.
Yeah.
Suppose your prayers aren't answered. What do you say? Well, it's God's will. Thy will be done. Fine. But if it's God's will and he's going to do it...
Come on, Colonel.
Why the fuck bother praying?
Attack!
Seems like a big waste of time to me.
No. Forget him. Oh.
Welcome to XM's Performance Theater. I'm Sonny Fox, and we are honoring this time around an icon, a fellow who has really changed comedy as we know it, literally. He's celebrating 50 years of entertainment this year. He's gone through more changes
RPG, get down!
in his lifetime, and he's invited us along on those changes. And sort of like the Beatles, we've gone through those changes with him. And he spent 50 years, think about that, 50 years making us laugh. And more importantly, in some people's opinion, he spent 50 years making us think. Would you welcome, please, Mr. George Carlin.
Oh, shit. Yep.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks for coming.
Sure.
It's your first visit to XM, right?
Yes, it is. It's okay, like to see you.
Sure. You look pretty good for an old fart.
Well, first time I've done makeup for radio.
Alright, just back to the games. Live now. Welcome, viewer.
This is live, ladies and gentlemen, and this is a very unusual podcast we're going to have here, and a very unusual discussion. To my left, Michael Shermer, very famous skeptic. He's been on the podcast before. Of course, Randall Carlson, amazing gentleman who knows far too much about terrifying things like asteroids. And Graham Hancock, author, also a fantastic human being, many times been on this podcast as well. And this all came out of a podcast that Randall and Graham and I did recently, and Michael Shermer commented on it, and it was all essentially on the hypothesis that the great extinction that happened with the North American land animals that happened somewhere around the end of the Ice Age, and the end of the Ice Age, the abrupt end of the Ice Age, being caused, please correct me if I fuck any of this up, being caused by a comet impact. Michael Shermer had some questions about that, and we said this would be an amazing podcast to get everybody together in a room and go over this. Since then, there's been some interesting stuff that's happened. Well, I thought this was really fascinating that Forbes has a mainstream article in Forbes, did a comet wipe out Ice Age megafauna? And this is actually from just a couple of weeks ago. And then there was also this interpretation that's fairly recent as well about one of the stone tablets, one of the stone carvings rather, on Göbekli Tepe. And Graham, you would probably be the best to describe that.
Yeah, that was published in Mediterranean Archaeology and Archaeometry.
See if I can spread them out.
Journal, by a couple of scientists from the University of Edinburgh, and they are proposing an interpretation of the Göbekli Tepe imagery. There's quite a lot of imagery on those T-shaped pillars, particularly one pillar, pillar 43 in enclosure B.
Right.
And their deduction, what they take from their interpretation, of course many will disagree with them, their interpretation is that those images are speaking of the comet impact. They're speaking of a comet that hit the Earth roughly 12,900 years before our time.
And Randall, this has been something that you've been obsessed with for many, many years now. We've documented it and detailed it in many conversations that we've had on the podcast.
Yes. Now, I can't say that I'm that familiar with that article. I haven't had a chance to get into it. So
but this idea that the comet impact is what has caused the end of the Ice Age.
Well, it's so complex, but now what we do is we throw some type of an impact into the mix, and it seems to fill gaps.
Pull this right up to you.
It seems to fill gaps that were, at this point, still unexplained. There's varying theories between some extent of climate change and some extent of human predation that caused the extinction. And I've always felt like you can't blame it on one or the other. I think humans probably had a role, but only in the very final stages of the extinction event. And one of the scenarios would certainly suggest that there were extreme climate changes between what's called the Balling Alarod, which was the rather gradual warming at the very end of the Pleistocene, which was then followed by the Younger Dryas, which was the return to full glacial cold, and then the end of the Younger Dryas, which is dated at about 11,600, which is considered now to be the boundary of the Holocene. Post Younger Dryas, pre-boreal it's called, would be the beginning of the Holocene. And it seems that most of the extinctions did occur between roughly 13,000 and 11,600 years ago, although the dating has a wide spread on it, so you can't pinpoint it down to a specific spread on it. But I've always felt like that there had to be something we needed to look at that triggered the extreme climate changes that we do see at the end of the Ice Age. And to my opinion, you can't attribute that solely to Milankovitch theories, which is basically the changing solar terrestrial geometry, because they're too slow. And what we see at the end of the Ice Age were very rapid climate changes. And so one of the things that I think has been missing has been the trigger. Wallace Brecker pointed out years ago that possibly
it's a radio
a major flood from the draining of Lake Agassiz caused an interruption of the thermohaline circulation, which is basically the circulation of the North Atlantic Ocean, and that this might have been what triggered the Younger Dryas and then also contributed to the mass extinction events. But now I think that the dating of the draining of Lake Agassiz is too late for that, and was probably a latter event within the overall melting phenomena that occurred between roughly 14,600 and about 11,000 years ago. Somewhere in there we have to fit that massive, and I definitely thought that climate change
That should fix it.
faster than that. But then what triggered the climate change? That always seemed to me to be something that was not ever really explained.
It's a cool, cool radio show,
Comet
man.
impact theory is very controversial, but the evidence has been steadily mounting now for a decade.
Including physical evidence, right? Like the core samples that show nuclear collapse.
Maybe we could find the city of Atlantis like this.
Europe at roughly the same time period
Okay.
when we do the core samples.
Yes, most of it's dating to 12,800 to 13,000 years ago.
These are called impact proxies.
Yeah.
Impact proxies.
Nanodiamonds, melt glass, microspherules. These kind of things are associated with impact, not necessarily always caused by impact. So this has been part of the reason for the controversy. But it's the abundance of all of these at a particular level which leads a large group of scientists to feel that we have had a comet impacting in the past.
It's the full assemblage of things that is difficult to explain by processes without invoking some type of a cosmic event.
And it also corresponds with what you believe is a period where Earth travels through a series of comets.
Well, this gets us to the ideas of what would be called the British neo-catastrophists, Victor Clube and William Napier and a number of others that have theorized that from time to time Earth encounters the debris from a large disintegrating comet.
Let's get my Wi-Fi back up.
William Napier addresses this in an interesting article I can pull up here pretty soon, that possibly around 13,000 years ago, Earth may have encountered some of the debris from a disintegrating comet, which ultimately goes back to Fred Whitmer, who was one of the godfathers of cometary science.
Could I just come in on that for a second? Yeah. I mean, specifically, Bill Napier and Victor Clube are identifying the remnants of this comet with the Taurine meteor stream, which is familiar, I think, to everybody. We pass through it twice a year. We see meteorites, particularly at the end of October.
Give me Wi-Fi.
That debris stream is still there. It still contains, according to their argument, bits of the comet. There are large objects in it, like comet Encke, Rudnicki, or Giotto, and so on, 4 or 5 kilometers in diameter. And the suggestion is that the meteor stream has got lots of small bits of dust, but it's got some larger stuff too, and some of that stuff fell out of the meteor stream 12,800 years ago and impacted primarily the North Atlantic.
Now, Michael, when you listen to that
Lost my Wi-Fi.
some questions, you are a professional skeptic, so of course you're skeptical. What are your thoughts about all this?
Yeah, let me pull back and give a bigger picture. After the podcast, I went and got the book, Editions of the Gods, and actually I listened to it on audio, so it's like 16, 18 hours of Graham reading with his wonderful British accent, which is, for Americans, that elevates the quality of the argument by an order of magnitude.
Yeah, that's how they sell things in infomercials over here.
And Graham, you're a good writer. It's a very compelling story.
Thank you. You're a great skeptic.
And so I think
Connect,
a number of
second
points about,
screen.
in general, the idea of alternative archaeology, which is really what we're talking about here. I prefer that to pseudo-archaeology because that's a little bit of it's supposed to be a little bit of an insult. So alternative archaeology. So it's good to remember that
second screen.
These guys on the podcast for 3 or 4 hours, and the audience listening thinks, yeah, why don't these guys get a fair hearing? I mean, it's like
Welcome to the channel, people.
There's these guys,
right?
But there isn't just these guys. There's hundreds of alternative archaeological theories. So which one gets
So I made 28,000. I'm going to make another 30,000 in the next 10 minutes.
In the field and trying to get and so on. They mostly just don't have the time to sort through all these alternative.
And time the base collapse around
and as we'll see in the next
35 minutes. The base will go down.
And hundreds of things to be addressed. So that's kind of what we.
Put it up there. Destroy that SWAT. Let's see, where is he?
Colonized the Americas. Mormon archaeology. Explanation of Native Americans. The Kensington runestones in Minnesota that the Vikings had come here. The Black Egyptian hypothesis. When I was in graduate school, a book called Black Athena was published that the Egyptians were actually black, and that the sort of Western white male dominance of history had written them out of the past. So this was a whole alternative history, alternative archaeology. Thor Heyerdahl, and his hypothesis that the Polynesian islands were colonized by South Americans who went east to west. That's since been debunked, but that's yet another one of these things. South American archaeology, Olmec statues seem to have like African features on them, so maybe Africans went directly across to South America. So there's like Eric Van Doniken, Zechariah Sitchin. Now most of these Graham rejects in his book, to your credit. So you're a good skeptic too. But for an outsider,
Score.
An archaeologist from Mars who steps into this thing cold, doesn't know anything, it's like, well, they're all alternative, which is the right one, and how do we know? And so what the way it works in science is the default position is the skeptical position. We assume your hypothesis is not true, not just you, anybody's hypothesis. Like the
come on.
Hypothesis. That was widely published. It was widely covered in mainstream scientific journals and popular science magazines like Scientific American. And it has not fared that well over the last decade or so. It's still around. It's still debated, but so you put it in the mainstream through peer-reviewed journals, and then you go to conferences and you have it out, and that's kind of where we end up with, well, this is what we think is probably true for now, and then all these other people out here, if they don't jump into the pool where everybody is, then there's no way for an outsider to know whether
best defense is a good offense.
Validity or not, other than they make a compelling case in a popular book, yes, but what do the mainstream scientists think? So, and the problem is that, so a couple of specific things, like what I call patternicity, the tendency to find meaningful patterns in random noise, the Virgin Mary on a grilled cheese sandwich or whatever. Those are fun examples, but, taking pictoglyphs, and then comparing them to constellations, like here we have constellations on your roof here. It's easy in the mind's eye to find a pattern. The question is, did those people really think 10,000 years ago, 5,000 years? So this is a field called archaeoastronomy. It's Prep, director of the Griffith Observatory here in LA. This is what he does. And sometimes he thinks the patterns mean something. Sometimes they're totally random. Or you take something like the pyramids. As Graham knows, there's 100 theories about the pyramids. And there's the mainstream one, and then there's all these other ones. And this is why people like the director there,
South Americans
just can't deal with them all. So this is one
colonized Australia. Possible.
Were things that, one guy calculated that if you divide the height of the pyramid into twice the side of the base, you get the number close to pi. And then he just sort of works all these different numbers, so therefore it's positive.
Well, Richard,
maybe RPG is good against structures
patterns in Mars
and clusters of men.
Like if you go from this rock to half the distance, like why would you do that? Like that doesn't make any sense. He would create these patterns.
Right, and that's okay. I mean, all scientists look for patterns. So, like, take climate change. Either the Earth is getting warmer, or it's not. Either it's human caused, or it's not. There's a pattern in the data. You can see the pattern. The question is the pattern real? So this is why we use the term climate consensus. It's not a democracy. It's not like we voted on it and decided this is the truth. It's that independently, all these different scientists working in different fields, publishing in different journals, come to the same conclusion. We call this conciliant science or convergence of evidence science. That it's not like these guys are meeting on the weekends going, boy, we got to combat those crazy right-wingers with our data. They're independently coming to these conclusions. So that lifts our confidence that, there's probably something to their theory. Such that there's now so much data compared to this, you'd have to deconstruct every one of those independent lines. So then
gotta make some like, RPG lasagna.
What I call the residue of anomalies. In any field, there are a residue of anomalies we can't explain. So, like UFOs, for example. Ufologists and media skeptics agree that 90 to 95% of all the UFO sightings are explained by natural phenomena. Venus,
come on,
peace, whatever. They know that. And so we're really only talking about 5%. How do you explain that one right there, 1967 on June 3rd? Again, I don't know. No one knows that one. And then from there they build, well, that's my case. If you can't explain that, then I have a case. No.
Well, that's very different than what we're talking about here.
How is that relevant to us here?
It's totally relevant because I think almost all of your argument is based on this residue of anomalies, what we call the god of the gas. You scientists can't explain this particular rock right here, or that particular petroglyph, and I'm going to count that toward my compilation of data to support my hypothesis of the lost civilization.
But no one is saying that the scientists can't explain it. What essentially, particularly Randall, with this series of images has shown, is that what you have here is something that can't
here goes Matt. Oh.
By
Stay with me there, veteran. Oh,
rapid
shit.
melting of the ice caps. Randall, step in if you will.
Well,
okay, go ahead if you want.
Well, they do say, I mean, it depends what you mean by rapid. A glacial dam that, as our geologist will tell us in a moment, that breaks, that's fairly rapid. Back in '96, there was a very popular book called Noah's Flood. This was a serious book by two geologists that said it was the rapid filling up of the Black Sea that swamped over the civilizations living on the edges of this, and that's where the miraculous flood story comes from. Okay, so this is widely debated and so on, and extensive as well. But that's fairly rapid.
Right.
We're talking over the course of weeks or months or years. To a geologist, thousands of years is rapid. So, an impact by a comet that happens in a couple hours or a couple of days versus a couple of months or years. What do we mean by rapid?
Okay, well, what are you saying then?
Okay.
So what are you saying about their theories in particular?
Okay, so the problem, I think, Graham, the deepest problem is much of your theory depends on negative evidence. That is, I don't accept the mainstream explanation for the pyramids, the Sphinx, the Machu Picchu, whatever.
Well, let's not talk about that. Let's just talk about this specific subject, because it's going to take a long time just to cover
okay, all right. So I'll
asteroidal impacts.
All right. So my final point is also falsifiability one. That is, what would it take to refute your hypothesis? Like, for me, the answer would be, like, if Göbekli Tepe turned out to be what you think it might have been, the place where advanced ancient civilization once inhabited or they used it. Where are the metal tools? Where are the writing, the examples of writing?
Perhaps a decision was made not to use metal. Perhaps a decision was made that errors had taken place. That in reinventing civilization, we shouldn't perhaps go down quite the same route as before. Perhaps writing isn't always an advance. Perhaps an oral tradition which records in memory, which enhances and uses the power of memory, may be a very effective way of dealing with information. We regard writing as an advance, and I can see lots of reasons why it is an advance, but if we put ourselves into the heads of ancient peoples, maybe it wasn't. I mean, there's a tradition from ancient Egypt that the god Thoth, god of wisdom, was the inventor of writing, but we have a text in which he is questioned by a pharaoh who is saying, well, actually, have you really done a good thing by introducing writing? Because then the words may roam around the world without wise advice to put them into...
Yeah, they have to wait over there.
So there might be a choice not to
okay, all right, but then what do you mean by advanced? When you say there used to be a lost advanced civilization before...
Right over here, they will wait.
Let's just pause here for a second, because what we know for a fact is that the carbon dating in all the area around Göbekli Tepe is somewhere around 12,000 years. Is that correct?
11,600 years ago.
Okay,
so the earliest they found so far. But a great deal of Göbekli Tepe is still underground.
Right. So at least what we know is someone built some pretty impressive structures 11,600 years ago.
7,000 years before stone.
So when that story broke, this is long before you came along with your book.
This is the spot.
It was controversial in the sense that
but it'll destroy.
The others could not do something.
I will destroy my
need a large population.
My waiting spot there. My barbed wires. They would.
And so what the response to archaeologists was, well, I
keep
guess
them from
the others. Maybe they can do more stuff than we gave them credit for.
Ooh,
why is that not
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
It was actually advanced, but we mean something completely different by advanced, not writing and metal and technology. We mean, I don't know what you mean. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, we have a body of archaeology which goes on for decades.
Because they can't see further than one segment. So when they're here, they think, I got to go here. When they're here, I got to go here. I got to here. and then they see the walls and decide that this is the best way to go. But over here they don't know which way is the quickest.
There are no older sites than that, and therefore the megalithic site is associated with a certain stage of Neolithic development.
All right,
Along comes Göbekli Tepe, 7,000 years older than Stonehenge. Incredibly sophisticated.
Let's spend these specials.
Sadly,
I'm not going to get any more rewards from this.
He was very generous to me. He showed me a lot. He taught me a lot. And he said basically 50 times as much as they've already excavated is still under the ground. That there's hundreds and hundreds of giant stone pillars that have been identified with penetrating radar. He's not even sure if they're ever going to excavate them. But by all accounts, we are looking, if we take what's still under the ground into account, we're looking at the largest megalithic site that's ever been created on Earth. And it pops up 11,600 years ago with no obvious background to it. It just comes out of nowhere. Now, to me, that's rather, well, that we know of. But to me, that's immediately a rather puzzling and interesting situation. And I would be remiss as an author and an inquirer into these matters if I didn't take great interest in that. The sudden appearance, 7,000 years before Stonehenge, of a megalithic site that dwarfs Stonehenge, to me, that's a mystery, and it's really worth inquiring into.
Well, to put it into perspective, that's more than 2,000 years older than what we now consider to be the building of the Great Pyramid of Giza, in comparison to us to then. Mm-hmm. So between our time now in 2017 and the construction of the Great Pyramid, you're talking about 2,000 years earlier than that, and that is unbelievable when you're talking about 7,000 years before what we thought people were doing.
Okay, but my point was that before we go down the road of constructing a lost civilization that was super advanced but different from our idea of advanced, why not just attribute to these fully modern hunter-gatherers who have the same size brains we have and so on, that they were able to figure out and do this? We just underestimated their abilities.
But why did archaeologists tell us for so long hunter-gatherers couldn't do it, and we needed
Hello viewers, what RPGs, swap grenadiers, swap machine guns.
But that was it. So now what archaeologists are saying was, I guess we were wrong about hunter-gatherers.
Well, they might be wrong.
This is the time to spend these.
Another civilization that they have not discovered that has been unearthed by time.
Sorry, Michael. Lost civilizations are not such an extraordinary idea. I mean, nobody knew that the Indus Valley civilization existed at all until some railway work was done around Mohenjo-Daro in 1923. Suddenly, a whole civilization pops up out of the woodwork that's just never been taken into account before the 1920s. We still can't
wait for the decoy.
You know, the idea that we come across that another turn of the spade reveals information that causes us to reconsider not just was it hunter-gatherers or agriculturists, but perhaps something bigger than this is involved.
Or in between them.
That's not such an extraordinary idea. I get it that mainstream archaeology doesn't want to go there, but that's my job.
No, I don't think that's correct. They would be happy to go there if there's evidence for it. By what you just said, they now fully accept the Indus Valley civilization. How did that happen if they were dogmatically closed-minded?
I don't say that they were dogmatically closed-minded about that. The evidence, the massive
more viewers,
that came up with the discovery of Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, Dholavira, and other such sites, it's very difficult. You have to be completely stupid to say that that's not a civilization. Göbekli Tepe is a
mega kill.
You know, we have stone.
I wonder if the base can hold off this this wave.
Perfectly north-south aligned building.
Maybe.
No, definitely.
Again, that's a patternicity thing.
Well, I'm citing Klaus Schmidt.
Well, that's all right. But any of us who read back into history.
Thank you for the compliment there, Mr. Porter. Or Miss Porter.
That's a good point. Who's Klaus Schmidt? Klaus Schmidt was the original excavator of Göbekli Tepe. He was the head of the German Archaeological Institute dig at Göbekli Tepe. He kindly spent 3 days showing me around the site, and really nobody's disputing the astronomical alignments of Göbekli Tepe. They weren't particularly interested in Klaus Schmidt, but they're there.
And what is the alignment? Like, how is it established?
Well, when you have a perfectly north-south aligned structure,
there's no engineers to fix it.
Then you are dealing with astronomy.
Damn.
Definition. And there are other alignments of the sun.
True north as established today, or with the precession of equinoxes?
True north is always okay. It's the rotation axis of our planet.
Okay, so to this day, it points exactly the same place where it was pointing.
It always points to true north.
Okay.
But back to this, they don't want to go. Sure, they want to go.
Or viewers.
Be happy to go there. case in point, 2 weeks ago in the journal Nature.
Yeah, there's nobody fixing the bunker anymore.
An article that
I'll have to see about that next round, see if I have to fix that.
San Diego area 130,000 years ago. This is an order of magnitude older.
Maybe an engineer will come out.
This
Nope.
was the mastodon bones they found that were
Let's have a look here. Oh
so
man.
here's an example of how. Okay, so clearly there's not some conspiracy to keep alternative people or fringe or radical theories out. It was published in peer-reviewed, the most prestigious journal in the world. There it is.
And then what happened?
Well,
hasn't there been a massive
Come on,
reaction
grunts.
to that, and lots of scathing remarks by other academics?
Yes, and that's normal. That's how science works. You get pushed back. You got to have a thick skin. It's just the way it goes.
You've got to have a thick skin. That's for sure. But maybe sometimes your skin is so thick that you just can't sense anything around.
Well, of course, we don't want that either. I
So
mean,
what do you think is going on when you look at something like Göbekli Tepe that's covered up purposefully, right?
Yes, deliberately buried. Again, I cite Klaus Smith. He's the authority on this. He's the excavator. He absolutely adamantly insists that that site was deliberately buried and finally covered with a hill, which is what Göbekli Tepe means in the Turkish pot-bellied hill.
Yeah. And then you're talking about something. Give me the perspective of how large they believe it is currently, as a current.
No, I don't have bombardiers in my barracks.
What's under the ground maybe
I need to unlock those. I really haven't played enough PvP.
There should be pottery. There's no pottery, no writing, articles of clothing. No one lived there.
Well, you're saying nobody lived there, so why should they have pottery? Why should pottery be in the fill? Why would they go along and break some pots and stick it in the artificial
fill? How
fill?
about something? They're trash when they something that would indicate it's different. A different kind of people than what we're used to seeing in the archaeological record. Well, in other words,
it's just rubbish that they poured in. It's just stones and earth, buckets of it.
In other words, Graham, for you to gain support for your theory amongst mainstream archaeologists,
More viewers, okay.
positive evidence to over.
Yeah, bombardiers are the best unit in the game. I agree. If you can get some bombardiers in a tent with engineers, that's pretty much a wrap.
Hunters and gatherers never had anything.
Oh, viewer left. Rambo. That's how Rambo talks. Come on. Come on, Banco. You can do it. Oh, it's going down.
That's one possible.
Yes, that's right. So this, I call this the
Come on.
We had kind of low expectations for these hunter-gatherers. Maybe we should jettison that idea. And in my own other
so much going on.
They also threw that out because this apparently was
the bunker lives.
That's the wrong word. They wouldn't have used
actually nobody can know that.
That's right. So, but if it was, this is the big National Geographic article emphasizes that. Maybe this is the very first religious spiritual temple ever built. Because they didn't live there, so they went there for a reason.
Isn't it also possible that this is signs that civilization was more advanced 12,000 years ago than we thought?
Okay, more advanced. What do we mean by
We're talking about the ability to construct an amazing structure.
Well, okay.
How big was it? Like, how tall are these stones?
Some of them are 20 feet.
60,000. I got good. I got my goal. So I'm going to let the base fall.
I was intrigued by the way that agriculture emerges around Göbekli Tepe at the same time that Göbekli Tepe is created. I mean, he went on record with me.
But
perhaps he's not right, but he went on record with me as saying that was the first agriculture. These were the people who invented agriculture. Now, to
it
me,
needs engineering.
The notion that a group of hunter-gatherers wake up one morning and invent megalithic architecture, the world's largest megalithic site, and at the same moment invent agriculture, stretches credulity a bit. And I think I would prefer to propose, and I have proposed, that what we're looking at is evidence of some kind of transfer of technology, that people came into that area who had other knowledge, and that was applied, and perhaps they mobilized the local population around this site. Perhaps that's precisely why we see agriculture developing there. So perhaps that's the skill that's being passed on.
But I don't see anything particularly. Okay, the stone work is spectacular, but that's not any more advanced than a few millennium afterwards.
You're talking about this 20 feet tall, made of stone,
but we know
by people that were hunter-gatherers.
A couple hundred people can move 20-ton stones.
There's no mystery in moving the stones. They're still moving 20-ton stones in Indonesia today. I mean, megalithic cultures still exist.
You also know that the carving on the outside is extremely complex. It's three-dimensional carving.
Okay, but I mean,
but you know what that means?
But
do you know what that means?
Come on.
So it has magnificent.
Stay with me, bunker.
But that's painting. You know, hold on a second. You know what I'm saying when I say three-dimensional
Yeah,
carving?
good man. We're facing 4 machine guns, 5 grenadiers,
Carvings were on
1
the
or 3
outside,
RPG.
into the rock. They carved away the rock around them, which is pretty sophisticated stuff for hunter-gatherers. And they're doing this on these 20-foot stone columns.
No.
It's pretty impressive stuff.
Stay with me, bunker.
The assumption is that they couldn't have figured this out. We know from modern societies where, say,
Get the sniper, get him. Good. Good.
In one generation,
stuff.
they go from stone tools to flying airplanes. The brains are quite capable of
Wow.
doing amazing things.
Did
It's
they
the
go
same
from
brain.
did they go from stone tools to flying airplanes without somebody introducing them to airplanes?
Yeah, you're actually making...
Ranges are good, right?
It's not
They're
that
accurate
much
and they have
range.
enough more range than the grunts.
People have been carving stones
But
for
the
thousands
entire
of years.
archaeological opinion on megalithic science for decades before this was precisely...
I think I'm gonna try to beat my record 77 minutes
The mainstream.
after this match.
Right,
Well,
or at the very least,
A
they
little
said-
shift.
Let's pause for a moment. Let's pause for a moment. So, for sure, we all agree human beings made this.
Yes, not
Yes.
aliens.
Okay.
Even
So
he
the
rejects
argument,
aliens.
so the argument is not whether or not aliens made it. The argument is whether or not humans made it that were sophisticated.
Yeah, it's a lot of
Well,
enemies.
they're clearly sophisticated enough to make this incredible structure that is some sign of some sort of civilization. I mean,
I believe so.
It is. It's a gigantic structure.
I agree with Graham that we've undersold the work. My friend Jared Diamond goes to Papua New Guinea. He talks in the opening chapter of Guns, Germs, and Steel how smart these people are that live out there in nature and what it takes to survive.
Oh, sure.
He wouldn't last an hour, from L.A. He wouldn't last an hour with his Papua New Guinean friends
Nice.
in the wild.
Well, that's just because he doesn't know how to survive, and they've been passing down the information generation after generation.
Very smart. Like you said, it's not a problem with intelligence. And is there? Okay, so here's the other thing we don't know is that there might be lots more of these sites, and where there
are. I visited one of them, Karahan Tepe. You've got the T-shaped pillars sticking out the side of a hill in a farmer's backyard. I mean, I think we're actually at the beginning of opening up this inquiry, not at the end of it.
Okay, but then before you, okay, why not just say we don't know? This is a spectacular mystery and leave it at that. Right? Why write a book that says
you guys on
I'm going to fill in all the gaps?
You guys on the mainstream side won't speculate and won't explore. I don't claim to be an archaeologist. I'm not a scientist. I'm an author. It's my job to offer an alternative point of view and to offer a coherently argued alternative point of view. And I must say, Göbekli Tepe strikes me as a gigantic fucking
Tempting, right?
and a mystery that is
Very
worthy
tempting.
of exploration from a point of view that may not satisfy you.
Oh well, it does not satisfy me.
You and your colleagues, and I certainly don't have to satisfy you or them. That's not my project.
But like your opening chapter with Schmidt, I really loved the kind of conversational style you had with Schmidt in the book, where he's dialoguing, where Schmidt goes, "And look at this," and then he says, But what? Wait, what's that again? Like a little bit like Columbo. Like, wait, I had just one more question. And, the mystery kind of thickens. That's perfectly okay. That's great. I mean, that's what science is all about, is uncovering mysteries that we then have to figure out. So there's always more mysteries, but that doesn't mean that's not positive evidence in favor of particular theory like the lost civilization. It's just we can't explain this. Full stop.
We certainly can't explain it, and you can't explain it by saying that we underestimated hunter and gatherers either.
Good stuff.
Well, why not? We know they made it.
Yeah, nice.
Whatever you want to call them.
Well, we know humans.
I like the base.
But so whatever you want to call them.
But why do they believe that people were only hunters and gatherers 12,000 years ago? Because they didn't have any evidence to the contrary. Right. This is evidence to the contrary.
No.
So you agree
Go and
that
get 'em.
hunter and gatherers.
Okay, but there's several stages in between. Just 12 people living out in the
Nope.
by themselves.
Wait.
There's like a whole bunch of different.
Well, I would say that Göbekli Tepe is a gigantic stage.
Well, we don't. Okay, they didn't live there, so we have to figure out. Well, where were they living and what was there? So that has to be excavated.
Well, they only excavated 10% of it, right?
And meanwhile, what you're saying is that we shouldn't speculate at all, because I mean, mainstream archaeology is speculating. Mainstream archaeology is speculating when saying it's definitely was hunter-gatherers who did this. That's also a speculation.
That seems more of a reach.
Okay, but not okay. They may be more than hunter-gatherers. They may have been partially settled. There's any kind of number of states.
But like, what you can't apparently have is the possibility of a transfer of technology from people who were really masters of that technology already when they came in.
But where are these people?
Well, you're dealing with them.
Peter waiting.
12,000 years ago, their fingerprints are there. Let's find their homes. I don't know. I don't know that their homes matter. Would their homes even survive after 12,000 years?
Well,
I'm not sure.
They're trash.
But what
they're
survives?
Tools, they're something.
Well, screw trash and tools. We've got Göbekli Tepe. It confronts us. It challenges the mainstream model. I think it's reasonable to consider the possibility that there was something more than just hunter-gatherers involved here. Created this extraordinary place. Okay. And that's all I've done.
It seems to me that to say hunter-gatherers could build this, wouldn't be opposed to the idea that they're hunting and gathering, but it does certainly imply a lot of leisure time.
Yes.
A lot of leisure time.
Well, and we know hunter-gatherers.
Well, again, if we place this back, particularly within that climate zone at 11,006 to 12,000, 13,000 years ago, whatever it turns out to be,
it's going down.
An extremely demanding and challenging climate, which wouldn't necessarily, to my mind, be conducive to the emergence of a settled culture that would be capable of undertaking a project on this scale. And as somebody who's built a lot of things and moved quite a few heavy weights in my time, I find it, the idea sort of perplexing.
1, 2,
they would be,
yeah.
What I would have to ask is, what is their motive?
I have 3 sniper towers, one is broken.
A project on this scale, because it's an enormous project. And
maybe I could fit one in, right?
A block of stone is really a challenging task to undertake. Today, well, without the infrastructure of large machines and so forth. But to do it by hand, it would be an enormous undertaking. And
I'm going to go for the record.
Where are they having time to hunt and gather when they're engaged in a project of this scale?
But we know hunter-gatherers.
Let's see, 46 is a major wave coming in.
It's a pretty good way to make a living, actually. They have a better berry diet than we have. This is the Neanderthal diet, right? They have a better berry diet and a lot more free time.
Yeah, but that's
a lot less stress.
Can you pick up?
All along about hunter-gatherers when we were saying they couldn't build megalithic homes.
But we're looking at
time
to do it.
Where the environment is undergoing rapid changes, to which adaptations would be extremely challenging. And we know those changes are going on all over the planet. We know that sea levels are rapidly rising over a period of a few thousand years, from a sea stand low of about 400 feet up to the present level. We also know that biotas were shifting dramatically all over the planet. The effects of the Younger Dryas were global. Pretty much that is, I think, the emerging
attack.
That both hemispheres, north and south, are being affected by the climate changes of the Younger Dryas. So what we're doing is we're placing this phenomena, this project within this context of these extremely challenging
now they're weight here.
In which, adaptation to
just
the
look at the wall,
changes
hey man.
Could easily be
we got Duke. Just go back.
Challenge of the times. I'm just finding it difficult to imagine a disconnect, to see this disconnect between a project of this magnitude and the motive for doing it during a time when obviously the environment could be posing serious constraints upon people's ability to function in that.
Randall, we don't even know the motives of the Easter Islanders and
no, we
why
don't.
They raised these huge, but we know they did it.
But hasn't that become a central question, though? What something had to motivate.
But then let's get back to Göbekli Tepe. So let's just be real clear. We know there were humans. We know that it's at least 12,000 years old. And we know that the real dispute here, the real question is, did these people have structures and did they have agriculture? We know that they were human beings. They were essentially modern human beings. So, were they hunting?
No. Okay. Let's see how we can do in the deep defense.
So the fact that they were able to build something so monumental what kind of a leap is it at all to think that these people could figure out how to plant food and figure out how to make a house?
Well, I mean, again, if you look back 30,000, 40,000 states, these are pretty.
Oh man!
Clearly, they had abstract reasoning. They could think from the concrete to the abstract and so on.
Boom, boom, boom!
Go from that
What's that? 8 RPGs?
I'd say there's a big difference between painting and engraving on paved walls and creating.
I mean, the painting is even
Sorry, and creating the largest megalithic site that's ever been built on Earth.
Wait a minute.
I think there's a huge difference.
49 minutes?
I mean, nobody would
I'd say 50 minutes.
Construction effort on Stonehenge or Gigantea with cave paintings.
I'm a wild one. No, man.
Magnificent. I've had the privilege to visit many of the paintings. They're stunning.
I'm just
as Tasso said when it came out of London,
not
we had
too tame.
nothing. Right. I mean, they were that was that modern human mind, symbolic mind at work there. But this is another matter. This is a large-scale construction project that's going on.
Look, it's waiting. They're waiting for the rest of them.
It's hundreds and hundreds of
to
very,
stack
very
up.
large megalithic pillars, which have to be
Look at this.
brought to the place. You know, organizing a workforce in order to do that, even that requires.
Even they are waiting. How many is this? 70.
Wake up one morning and just can do overnight.
You think
here's another 100.
Impressive and go back with tapping? Yeah.
And here's another 50.
I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
It's amazing, man. And they're waiting. They're waiting for my guys to spawn before they attack.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like developing perspective and to use the natural shape of the wall.
Let's look at them one more time.
Three-dimensional perspective look.
Look.
Comparing apples and pears. It's not a construction project.
Okay,
I don't think it's even remotely. But I don't think it's even remotely.
But what I'm saying is that it doesn't take a huge leap of imagination to think these people were pretty smart. They had
we know that they were smart.
The calm before the storm.
Those construction projects.
Calm before the storm, man.
We know that they were smart.
Who's shooting?
Was clearly intelligent. Whoever made those 3D carvings, clearly they were intelligent.
Come on, give me a special.
That someone drawing on
here they come.
Is more impressive than erecting 20-foot stone columns with 3-dimensional carvings on them.
Insane.
Animals that weren't even native to the region.
That's
is that debatable?
Yeah, man.
But my point, Joe, is that these paintings are like, say, 30,000, 40,000 years old.
Boom shaka.
There's tens of thousands of years to develop more that we learn and find more archaeological.
And yet, up till now,
Next.
we haven't found that. We haven't found all.
So, how about we try for that record?
See, if I could actually
77 minutes.
Material between the upper Paleolithic cave.
Hey, don't tell me
and Göbekli Tepe. If I could see the gradual evolution and
don't tell me the loading screen is actually working.
That'd
be something else.
Survivors of a lost civilization who
hey, the loading screen is working. Holy shit.
Tepe, but it still looks to me like a transfer of technology.
Let's go for 77 minutes. Oh, wave 74 people.
How this group of hunter-gatherers became equipped to create this giant site where they practiced, where they learned the skills to move the stones, to organize the workforce, to feed and water the workforce in a rather dry place. All of that is actually quite a logistical challenge.
Yep.
Appreciate that, Ceramic.
Some humans.
It's a nice compliment to make.
Did they have structures? Did they have
legit, and
did they have some sort of a community
don't quit.
Where they lived in an established location?
I would imagine.
So that would push back the time where we thought that there was a civilization. That would push them back into a realm of at least stepping out of the hunter-gatherer stage.
Now, your guy Schmidt, as you show in your book, he did not go as far as you guys.
Certainly not.
Right.
No.
But he admitted it's a mystery. Okay, why? That would be the scientific approach. I don't know what it is. Great mystery. Let's just wait and see. Versus, I'm going to postulate a lost civilization.
430 enemies.
It's a free country, and scientists do this all the time, as you've mentioned.
There's a rather humorous thing, which I have to say. Actually, I might even ask Jamie to pull up the couple of images of Fingerprints of the Gods. That's the book I'm best known for. And when I published Fingerprints of the Gods in 1995, essentially I was saying civilization is much older and much more mysterious than we thought. And I was ridiculed for proposing that. 2013, one of the magazines that ridiculed me, New Scientist magazine.
I'm going to try for,
This is a cover story.
I'm going to do this, and after that I'll watch...
Civilization is much older.
I'll try to break the 77 mark.
Fair enough. And scientists do this. I mean, I followed paleoanthropology for my whole adult life. And one of the big mysteries is how did we get...
and they're all walking the wrong way.
From, say, what...
They might fuck up my sniper tower, though.
The doubling of the human brain.
Come on, sniper tower, go get him.
And because no one knows, every couple of years there's a
one
new
sniper.
Climate change. It was
the throwing arm, cooking
that's
food.
Right, cooking meat. You know, meat is another big one. A Harvard professor. Meat. Okay, and these books come and go, and some of them have legs, some of them don't, and it's just the way it goes.
And then there's Terence McKenna's.
It's pretty obvious it was psychedelics.
Yeah, that's Terence McKenna's.
Not that made the
Stone
brain
Age
bigger, but that switched the brain
Is this
on.
the old Julian?
Julian James, no, the bicameral mind, not at all. This is David Lewis Williams, who's professor of anthropology at the University of Witwatersrand in South Africa.
Fascinating,
Psychological
yes.
theory of Kavon. All kudos to Terence McKenna and Food of the Gods. What a brilliant thinker, what a brilliant alternative thinker. But David Lewis Williams at the University of Witwatersrand has been working on this problem since 1973, and his argument is that the remarkable similarities that we see in rock and cave.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah.
Shamanistic art, shamanism.
We have a Merry Kwanzaa.
Consciousness. This is typical
and of course,
versions of altered states of consciousness. And it seems
enjoy your Festivus
a great leap forward in
for the rest of us.
And you covered this in your book.
I covered it in Supernatural.
Right, now I got it. Get my vaporizer loaded. Loaded. So I can get loaded. Come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Up. There you go. And I'm back.
Alright, so now this guy is starting with 10 pluses on his side.
God,
Already
yeah, alright, good shit.
Even so, his book was like, maybe.
Well, it's probably
that's what's left of the snipers.
And a bunch of different factors.
That's right, could be a number of different things.
So let's
less than 400 enemies to go.
Tepe and ancient civilizations.
Gotta get them all.
Let's get back to the geological evidence, which Randall, you're an expert at, and this is one of the main things.
Paratroopers.
This is one of the reasons why we got everybody together. Now, what is your thoughts on what Randall and Graham propose, specifically Randall, who is much more on the geological side of things?
Yeah. Well,
get that sniper. All right.
Right. Geologist. So, by way of background, after your
those paratroopers are now just regular troopers.
This is what we do. So this will be our cover story and
questions.
I hope that Mark Defant is going to be doing some more work on the draft of his article for you that is up online, because that article is full of bullshit statements about me which are demonstrated false. He's there.
I'm happy to agree
with those particular issues.
I'm glad you're enjoying yourself, man. It's important.
Online, this is not been published yet.
Well, it claims that it's a draft of the article that will appear in the 2017 edition of Skeptic magazine.
So pull it up, Graham, and
sure. Why don't we bring Mark on and
let's let Graham go over it.
I can't have that. This is unacceptable.
So here's Defant on Magicians of the Gods. By the way, Michael, I mean, you say that you're here to respect.
He went over the wall.
The truth.
Good stuff.
Conjuring up a lost civilization.
Let me just get to the top of
the guys on the radio talking about lost civilizations.
So, amongst the words in Mark Defant's article, he's accusing me of duping the public. He's saying that I'm public enemy number one. He's accusing me of arm waving. I do wave my arms. Pontificating.
Oh, it's a surgeon.
My father was a minister of the church.
Time for a surgical strike.
Claimed that no academic would debate. That's utter bullshit. I had a debate with Zahi Hawass, who's a leading Egyptian Egyptologist, back in 2015. It was not my fault that Zahi Hawass walked out on that debate. I can play the video if you like. It's a minute and a half of Zahi Hawass
toy robots
walking out and refusing to debate further. So it's bullshit to say I don't debate or I'm not
more surgeons.
willing to debate. And finally,
3 surgeons and 2 medics.
People into buying his books. Now, how can we get any dialogue going when somebody begins like that?
Another surgical strike. Exit.
I just have to scroll down and I don't have a mouse.
Whoa. I'm fixing my walls, man.
Hancock and Carlson
you can
several times
try to blow up my walls as much as you like. I'm fixing them.
I'm accused of doing an about face since since Fingerprints of the Gods.
Oh.
Are my views not allowed to evolve?
Yeah, it's a good show. The Joe Rogan show.
A crime on my part. Let me just finish.
Yeah.
Then, cheap
holy
shot,
schmoly.
he cites Jesus Gamarra. And accuses me of not having the scientific knowledge to deal with issues of gravitation. Now, it's true that Jesus Gamarra, who is a descendant of the Incas, who has worked 70 years
Get that surgeon.
on the megaliths of Sacsayhuaman, whose father before him, Alfredo Gamarra, worked 70 years. It's true that he's got
peel off the surgeons, and the rest are vulnerable.
It's a way out theory. What I go on to say, quoted in the attack, is that, however, this isn't the part of his theory I'm interested in. Where I feel he is solidly persuasive is in his observations of the anomalous character of the monuments of the Andes, etc.
That was
doesn't
not so surgical.
He just presents me as buying what Jesus Gamarra says. I mean, if that's the standard that you're going to have in
got to get rid of all of these surgeons.
You have a serious problem. And then Göbekli Tepe, he contends that Göbekli Tepe is too advanced to have been completed by hunter-gatherers and must have been constructed by a more advanced civilization. Well, no, that's not what I say. I say it was constructed by hunter-gatherers, but that they were advised and supported by people who had knowledge of this and transferred some skills for them. He says that, he quotes me, Hancock makes the following stunning claim, quote, "Our ancestors are being initiated into the secrets of metals and how to
surgeons reviving surgeons." Okay, good, well done. And my base has not been scratched.
That is not my claim. Then what else?
So you don't think that's the explanation?
Well, I'm being misrepresented by your author. If he wants to represent me, if he accuses me of cherry picking, he shouldn't cherry pick my statements. He should quote it in full context.
On this. Let's get it right.
Well, it's out there. It's out there on the internet.
Well.
You're still working on it,
and then here's a beautiful one.
To wait for them to bunch up a bit. I want 3 surgeons at once.
Schmidt on the character. Schmidt makes a salient point, almost as if he anticipated Hancock's book. Quote, "Fabulous or mythical creatures such as centaurs or the Sphinx, winged bulls or horses do not yet occur in the iconography, and therefore in the mythology of prehistoric times they must be recognized as creations of the high creatures which arose later." Well, bullshit. You've just been talking about the painted caves. Go to Chauvet. You'll see a lion.
Have them mess with each other. How does that work?
Lion man carved out of mammoth ivory. Go to Chauvet. Bison man, straddling lion woman. Her right arm is transforming.
What happened?
Is transforming into a lion.
So
these mythical creatures did exist.
Oh my!
And it's rubbish that they didn't. I mean, how can I go on? The teapot. Oh yeah. Okay. So he's taking issue with me because I suggest that the vulture.
The paratroopers are walking the wrong way, man.
Is representing the teapot.
Yeah, man. How am I going to deal with that?
Sagittarius, and he goes and gives us little things of Uncle Sam and some other thing that he shows. Anybody can impose any image on anything. Well, it's not my fault that a couple of academics who didn't even talk to me and had nothing whatsoever to do to me and published a major study in the, I quote it again, the Mediterranean Archaeology and Archaeometry, a peer-reviewed journal, where they make precisely.
I'm getting sandwiched.
So at least I'm not alone. At least there are peer-reviewed credentialed scholars who also agree that figure is representing the teapot asterism within the constellation of Sagittarius. No reference to that. Shock's opinions were supposed to not go into the minutiae because...
Come on, wreck that riot shield. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, bang.
Vafiadu, far from
right on.
That study doesn't dismiss Shock at
wreck
all.
it.
None of that study
wreck the shield.
The body of the Sphinx
wreck the shield.
It was done in the Valley
and wreck it.
And by the way, the dates are extremely troubling.
Good
Some
stuff.
of them push it as far as 3,600 BC that the work was done. Or as
wreck that shield.
As 1,000 BC. I don't think that study proves anything, and so on and so forth.
We don't misrepresent you. So you don't think that the lost civilization instructed them on the use of metals?
I don't know. I don't see evidence for that.
But why would you put that in the book then?
I didn't put it in the book. I was quoting the Book of Enoch. It's a huge passage on the Book of Enoch. It's not me who's saying that. It's the Book of Enoch that's saying that.
I understand, but why?
Banned Bible books.
All I require your defant to do is to state that Hancock is citing the Book of Enoch. He didn't do that. That is, what's the word?
Oh, Colonel versus Colonel.
Disingenuous? Is that the
Which one lives? Yes, my Colonel lives.
More than
they're sending paratroopers out to kill my Colonel.
The question is what's the context of including that in your book? I forget.
Well, the context is that actually I was criticizing.
Will they engage?
That's primarily.
Yeah, they're trying to engage.
I don't think that a lost civilization instructed the people who wrote Göbekli Tepe on the use of metals and tools.
I see no evidence for that.
Oh,
R.I.P.
Colonel.
Say they instructed them
Rest in
on the use of metals and
pieces.
tools unless I can find evidence.
Well,
for
so
it.
what did they do?
2 surgeons.
They generated agriculture. They created a center of excellence around which a hunter-gatherer.
Not they who built Göbekli Tepe. The lost civilization.
What's happening here is important. We got 2 surgeons.
They've come through a
Come here.
They're survivors, few in number. This is my scenario. You don't have to accept it, I'm sure you don't.
Oh, man.
They settle take refuge amongst hunter-gatherers. I mean, I don't know, you're probably have some survival skills. I don't have many.
That's
I mean, if we were
not,
to have a comet impact
I'm not
in the
worried
world
here,
today,
no.
which were to take out all the underpinnings of
Come on, grunts,
civilization,
to the front.
I might go settle with hunter-gatherers because they're the people who know best how to
That's
live
where I would
in
go.
that
I have no
situation.
survival skills.
Yeah, so go settle amongst hunter-gatherers, but I might be able to transfer some of my knowledge to them. I might have something that I could transfer to them, and I might have very strong reasons why I might not choose to transfer all of it.
But so, in other words, perhaps this is what happened. Okay, maybe, but how is that different from Zechariah Sitchin?
Want them to survive. Go on.
Well, I don't need.
Different.
I think it's massively different, especially since Zechariah Sitchin has his aliens arriving here in 1970s NASA technology. Weirdly, he wrote his book in the 1970s. I mean, I don't go there. I don't make that suggestion. I'm simply saying, perhaps there's been a forgotten episode in human history. Perhaps its fingerprints are present at a number of sites around the world, but perhaps the extremely defensive, arrogant and patronizing attitude of mainstream academia is stopping us from considering that possibility, and therefore I campaign to get that possibility considered, and I try to do so with as loud a voice as possible.
Well, you're doing it. You're doing it, man.
But doesn't it disturb you that you run Skeptic magazine and someone publishes something like that? I mean, that goes against the whole idea of critical thinking. I mean, it's misrepresenting his
surgeon have to go.
It's really
130 enemies. I'm feeling good about this one.
But why would anybody write
Got a good feeling about crushing this way.
We are. That's not supposed to be posted online.
And why is such a person?
It's online though. How does something get online?
Why is such a person who will do that a useful contributor to your side of the debate?
Well, one of the reasons we're here is to get your point of view exactly right. All right, so you're saying that there's no evidence that any loss of their influence on later peoples we do know existed.
I'm saying they're physical objects. I say Göbekli Tepe is one of them. I say the Sphinx is another.
But see, this is that argument from either ignorance or personal incredulity. I don't accept the mainstream, or I can't think of how this pyramids could have been built, therefore it was built by somebody else.
I have 3 channels? I didn't know that.
That's not what he's saying. They're just post-dating it.
They're bringing in gas.
Sphinx is older. I do go with Robert Schoch's argument on the geology. I'm also very interested in the astronomy.
Okay, I want to...
Again, I have slides that I could show.
Is that anything interesting? No.
If we have time, you might want to get into Ed Krupp's criticism of the Orion correlation and why he said it's upside down. I could talk to you about that.
We do. I mean, I know Ed Krupp's argument about that, and that was from the 90s, I think.
What's your thoughts on Robert Schoch's conclusions?
That's not something I know much about.
Mega kill.
It's a huge factor. It's a huge factor. Because it's all about water erosion.
Stop it with your gas.
And he rejects it.
Boom! Acid gas.
And that paper really doesn't date
82 left. Any left over here? 82. This is about another 70.
All right, then who dated it?
Who dated it? Liritsis and Vaviadi.
And then why do mainstream archaeologists
bringing in the
not
gas?
date for the Sphinx? And the answer is because they have a whole bunch of other evidence that points to the date that they think.
The answer is to your question is very simple. Mark Lehner and Zahi Hawass put it on record.
I'd have to
John Anthony West and Robert Schoch
find out how much
rainfall
I have to pay for the bombardiers.
On the Sphinx. And what Lehner and Hawass said is...
And I think I'll buy the bombardiers once I need to.
Because there was no other
the base is okay
anywhere
now.
in the world that was capable of creating large-scale monumental architecture like this. Show me one other structure that's capable of doing that. Well, they could say that in 1992, Michael, but they can't say it in 2017, not since Göbekli Tepe.
Oh, I know Baron from, ever since...
this could be a standalone thing.
I should check out his channel for sure. I think I subscribed, I'm not sure.
Boston University, who was a geologist. What was his conclusion?
and the trench out of which the Sphinx is cut bears the unmistakable evidence of precipitation-induced weathering caused by
I think I might watch the Tactics channel. That's interesting.
And that is particularly pointed out in the vertical fissures.
Yeah, I heard good things about him.
You see, the Sphinx itself has been subject to so much restoration over so many years that it's difficult for people to even see the core body of the Sphinx today. But it's these, you can see the vertical fissures even down at the back of there. That is what shocked me.
Hey, two viewers, alright. Yeah, I'll go check out a bit later on.
Layers and leaving the harder layers in place. And the problem is we don't have that rainfall in Giza, in Egypt, 4,500 years. You have to go back.
Let's go finish them off.
That's the suggestion.
So that's the suggestion by Robert Schoch, independently of the conclusions.
Totally independent. Schoch disagrees with me on many things, as a matter of fact, and I disagree with him on many things, but I think he's on the money on this.
So that alone would set back at least that one. I mean, it's pretty much established that
One, two, three.
Giza was constructed about 2,500 BC, right?
There's absolutely no doubt that a huge project went on at Giza around 2,500 BC.
So your argument is not that the whole thing was that much older, it was that parts of it
17.
seem to
This
have
is
been
them.
from an earlier civilization, or at least that civilization far, far earlier.
No.
I would say
No, you
that
don't.
ground plan, what we have at Giza, the basic layout of the sun, was established in what the ancient Egyptians called Zeptet the first time. Astronomically and geologically,
My decoy is stuck in a tree.
that the first time can be dated to the period of about 12,500 to 13,000 years ago. That was
8 enemies left.
There's intriguing
We'll let them run into the
of Great
base.
Pyramids to the Belt of Orion. I know Ed Kravens
Come on, Grunt.
is completely opposite.
7 enemies left.
And of the Great Sphinx to the constellation of Leo, rising due east, housing the sun on the equinox, the astrological age of Leo. Again, I have slides I can.
And that would
show.
align with
6.
geological evidence that Robert Schoch
5, 4,
aligns with the geological evidence. The age of Leo
3,
pretty much exactly spans the Younger Dryas.
2, 1.
And so the only argument against
Come on,
that
Colonel.
at the time,
Get wrecked.
there were no other
Shot in the
structures like that
face.
from 12,000 years ago.
Wave 74.
Krupp said that the
Defeated.
Orion correlation.
Hey, that's
wasn't
good money, man.
because
70k
it was
for,
But do you want to get into that now?
what was it? 15 minutes? 20
That's
minutes?
the only argument. It's that, okay, if the Sphinx is built, or the...
Baron's on Tactics. Let me go
say 10, 11,000
check
years
that
ago.
shit out. I
And
can
then
easily
the
do it
pyramids are built, 2,500 BC.
once I'm...
What happened in between? Where are all the people, the trash, the places where they lived?
Well, there's
in
a
that
bunch
area?
of different styles of construction.
Something like a...
But not dated in between.
I would propose, Michael, something like a monastery, which has a relatively
Baron Van
small
Tactics.
archaeological footprint, is on the
Doing
side. I
it
mean, the
now.
idea of information, knowledge, and traditions lasting for thousands of years
Tick.
within a religious system shouldn't be too...
Yeah. I like the Joe Rogan podcast. You should watch that. It's really interesting. Baron Van Tactics. Subscribe. Whoa, 17,000? That's the ultimate cheesy OP strategy. With the new update. 20k views 2 days ago. Let's go check that out. Got something to do something while I'm in this loading screen.
Stop us. You cannot stop me. I will not be denied glory. All right, everybody, Baron here, and welcome back to Guns Up. So apparently, Baron's Brigade Zero only earned an Alliance Silver reward. Let's actually see what we got there. I'm trying to get the good stuff. We'll open our common card pack first. So anyway,
Oh, he doesn't have a
let me
camera?
know,
Good
who
for
to
him.
give the Iron Lungs to. Ooh, we did get Valor. That's going to be very helpful because we've got this Iron Lungs perk, right? And we've got to give it to the right guy. Let's see what we get. Please give me like a ton of Valor. Because basically to upgrade somebody to use it, ooh, rapid deployment, a rare card pack? Woo, yeah, all right. And we got 50k munitions. So we'll open up this bad boy here and see what we get here. Come on, what we got?
I'm gonna check it out.
We've got some more missiles.
Doing
We
some
got
cards
rapid
right
deployment.
now.
Instead,
He's fixing
is an interesting cheese
to
strategy.
attack.
So we're gonna
Oh, here
try
it is.
once more and
Veteran.
see.
Moving
Gotta
on.
keep this cheap, man. Good work. Keep stunning it. We got 3 of them. We got a veteran. Rangers like, Rangers lead the way, boys. I'm going this way. All right, well, you will probably get wrecked. Can we see? Man, I can't even see the headquarters. This is going to be tough. We got to fight our way all the way up there. I've got to ensure that this squad stays alive. Do I want to do it? I'm not sure. I guess.
Let's go find out if I can find out what this base thing is.
I went against.
Because this is probably an older video. Unlocking the best unit, epic comeback, alliance battle, best 4th challenge, best base or worst base. Battling the best and most OP players. The best unit cards, base upgrades and new records. That's probably what.
Toasted and roasted, boys. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. All right, everybody, Baron here, and welcome back to Guns Up. Baron Von Tactics, we going off. So, the idea here is to upgrade our defenses. I didn't get any significant ideas in terms of how to design the base, but I did get some pretty toasted and roasted.
He needs to reset his base and
in the morning. All right, everybody, Baron here, and welcome back to Guns Up. Baron Von Tactics.
Alright, he's got forward defense here. He's using the entire terrain.
I didn't get any significant ideas in terms of how to design the base, but I did get some pretty good ones on how to upgrade the base. So first, we've got to see. We're gonna go to our build inventory because Stretchko in a great minute.
Yeah, he's got a cool base. Hell yeah.
We need a 3rd tent. So this is 18 build points, but I think we're gonna have to buy a new one. So let's go.
Let's save up all my specials, see if I can break the 77 mark.
Get a new tent. Let's do it. It's cheap. Yes, so the 3rd tent will increase the amount of units we have popping out, right? Now, I'm wondering, should we actually put the tents... Where should we put the tents? These aren't guarded by AA guns, actually, which kind of scares me. People could use missiles on them. That gives me 35. Alright, but I think that upgrading this would be pretty important as well. So the idea here is after buying the 3rd tent, Stretchko was saying to get bombardiers, engineers, and rangers, right? Currently I have snipers.
That sounds good, yeah. Bombardiers, engineers, and rangers.
Which one's the most important? Like, because I've got different levels of tents. I've got a level 6, I've got a level 7, and we're going to see how much we can upgrade this one. Let's just upgrade it right quick and see how expensive it gets. But I think we're going to use most of our munitions here on base defense. I don't want to... There we go. And then I know that our unit card perks also affect how good a tent is. Look at this. It slowly starts ramping up here. I think like maybe to get to level... I think one of these to get to... Yeah, see, look at this. 120,000. So we'll get it up to level 6. So we've got 2 level 6 tents and 1 level 7. And what was interesting, I thought tents just pump out
level 7
waves,
tents.
But some of you more veteran players were saying that the tents actually pump out... Right when the battle starts, they pump out a wave. And then they'll pump out 3 more little groups throughout the battle, but then that's it. I've also got some pretty good tips on how to upgrade my base. So what we're going to do is level 7, we've got rangers, engineers, and bombardiers as the units that we want to put in here. So rangers leading the way, but which one? I guess bombardiers because of how souped up. Assign that, and then so bombardiers because it's my favorite unit. I think it's one of the best. And then now these two don't really matter because they're both tier 6. Tier 6, level 6. So let's go ahead and change this level 6 to.
All right. Let me see if I need to spend specials to make specials. That would mean I have to find a cluster, use a landmine, and that'll give me a new special. But which one? Get him. Alright, so let's go back to our regular programming. We were at least an hour in there.
Get into that now?
Well, first, that's not the only argument. It's that, okay, if the Sphinx is built, or the layout for the whole thing is built in 10, 11,000 years ago.
4 minutes in.
The pyramids are built in 2500 BC. What happened in between? Where are all the people, the trash, the places where they live?
Well, there's a bunch of different styles of construction.
Something like
but not dated in between.
I would propose, Michael, something like a monastery, which has a relatively small archaeological footprint on the site. I mean, the idea of information, knowledge, and traditions lasting for thousands of years within a religious system shouldn't be too absurd to us. I mean, Judaism is dealing with ideas that are already best part of 4,000 years old if we go back to Ur of the Chaldees and so on and so forth. So that's all I'm suggesting, really, that the idea is preserved, maintained.
I don't feel too worried. Maybe I'll lose one or two.
On the site, but in something like a monastery,
veterans,
which has got a very small archaeological footprint.
Oh, you just have to go get them.
Perhaps, again, one can only speculate, and I think there's a lot of speculation on the archaeological side too. One can only speculate, perhaps having gone through a cataclysm, perhaps they felt to blame for this.
Oh, nice.
Rightly. I mean, there
Keep
are
collecting.
many traditions in which humanity's behavior is implicated in the cataclysm that takes place. And perhaps they didn't want to switch civilization on completely right there. Perhaps they waited, passed down the knowledge through initiates. Enough was there to create a mystery, because
Best
it's
defense
a mystery.
is a good
the construction
offense.
of the Great Pyramids, the first huge pyramids in Egypt, preceded only really by the Zoser pyramid at Saqqara, that the construction of the Great Pyramids is vastly superior to the construction of the pyramids of the 5th and 6th dynasty that follow it. And that's a little bit counterintuitive, that we have this collapse in skills. One would have expected it to got better. So it sounds like the work on the pyramids started already with a level of knowledge in it.
Yes, but okay, so here's how I would think about that. There's a lot of perhapsing and maybes because yes, well, so you have a bunch of Egyptologists and archaeologists who've been working on this site for centuries. This is one of the most ancient mysteries and so on. And so let's say there's like 20.
Yeah, I saw his base. It's pretty fucking cool, man.
Roughly around this time period here, and then you come out and say, okay, but there's this one anomaly of the rain thing and there was only rain at this time. Now there's a huge gap. You have one anomaly or line of evidence here and like 20 here.
Well, we're talking about different structures, so there's not a lot of evidence that points to the Sphinx being from a particular time period.
Well, he's saying like 12,000, right?
I'm saying the rainfall evidence suggests
that. But other evidence.
Hey, cut it out.
The constellation of Leo housing the sun at dawn on the spring equinox. It's an equinoctial marker. Nobody would dispute that.
Just when you stand exactly on that spot, they get to shoot the sniper from a different angle.
I've stood on the back of the Sphinx at dawn on the spring equinox, and believe me, again, I could show a picture, its head lines up perfectly with the rising sun. But no, I don't think anybody, even Krupp, is disputing that it's an equinoctial marker. Now, here's the thing. You're an ancient Egyptian. You're building an equinoctial marker in 2,500 BC.
Yeah, this Baron von Let's Play, he's a real professional YouTuber there, man. Good for him.
Taurus. So logically, if you're creating an equinoctial, and the ancient Egyptians were not shy about making images of bulls. Plenty of them. If you're making an equinoctial marker in 2,500 BC, you really should create it in the form of a bull, not in the form of a lion. You know, that's the puzzling issue.
Okay, that didn't make much sense. That last. You need to clean your keyboard there.
Dawn on the spring equinox, and that is the period of the Younger Dryas.
Okay, I'd say that's a pretty big leap.
Well, I know you'd say that, and your colleagues all say that too.
And so now, and then we have a gap of about 5,000 or 6,000 years where there's nothing.
Let me interject there.
Yeah, please do.
I'm going to refer back to several articles that were published in the 80s and 90s. This one is from Nature, early 80s, late Quaternary history of the Nile. And what it's discussing is the evidence that there was a major shift in the hydraulic regime of the Nile River. It says between 20,000 and 12,000 years before present, when timberline in the headwaters was lower, vegetation cover more open than today, the Nile was a highly seasonal braided river, which brought mixed coarse and fine sediments down to Egypt and Sudan. This cold, dry interval had ended by 12,500 years before present, when overflow from Lake Victoria and higher rainfall in Ethiopia sent extraordinary floods down the main Nile.
The other battery is going down.
Those floods have been documented to have been 120 feet above the modern floodplain of the Nile. Any civilization, or whatever you want to call it,
really want to save everything for the wave that goes down at
whatever they were doing
46 minutes.
In this regime, this
that wave is insane.
And it goes on to say it marked a revolutionary change to continuous flow.
Go on, get that sniper. Get him.
So what happened is that there was a major environmental change.
Fuck!
Right there around 12,000 to 12,500 years. The dating could be adjusted.
Not worried.
Since the early 80s, but the point is made is that because of a major hydrological change,
keep saving them specials.
Cover change, major
I'll do one gas.
This would have caused also
to keep them alive.
changes upon whatever culture was existing there or living there at the time. Now what we have is, in the aftermath of that event, we have basically the emergence of desert, which now would require serious adaptation.
Damn, those
it's very
RPGs
likely
are
that these events
tough.
could have also decimated the population at the time, leaving
10,000 munitions.
basically no workforce. And then over a period of 2 or 3 or 4,000
I'll make another 20,000 in the next 10 minutes, and then another 30,000 in the minutes after that.
Can be renewed. But it's clear from this and a lot of other studies in the
Just wait for them to target. Go. This is where you wait, and then it's good. Get the grunts back up front.
From the continental surface that has not oxidized. It has essentially become rotten and
save me specials.
Organic material carried in off of the continents by this enhanced regime of water flow, actually forcing so much water that there was a freshwater lid on the eastern Mediterranean that caused a cessation in the circulation between the upper waters and the lower waters.
That's right, 10 minutes.
Reducing the amount
20,000 in the next 10 minutes.
To the lower waters, and so you had.
And then I'll do another 30,000 in
formed on the bottom of the Mediterranean that showed
after that.
Massive influx.
That's how I got these walls all upgraded.
Out of the Nile and off of the Egyptian continent at this same time. So clearly the evidence shows that there were major climatic changes
What's
that
going on
occurred
here?
Around this time.
Okay.
It is not so speculative to imagine that whoever, whatever, and we don't have to invoke any kind of a super advanced civilization, but whatever cultures were there that were perhaps capable of carving blocks of stone, transporting blocks of stone, if they were at Göbekli Tepe.
Some double layer action. Come on, get that sniper going.
That their activity would have been interrupted.
Bang.
To the extent that it might have taken
Bang.
to recover, to get the labor force
another shot.
To undertake major monumental programs on the Giza Plateau. So I think that the
now I'm going to have to
this gradualistic scenario,
intervene.
That's a fair question to ask. What happened in that interval? But if there is a major climatic downturn and a major disruption of the settled patterns of whatever culture was already there.
Come on, get my grunts up front.
Now we might have an
There
explanation why there would be a death. Especially if these events caused a bottleneck in the population of the area. Of course, this is all speculative, but it is
don't
not
you
speculative.
step on my blue man shoes.
Lines of evidence suggesting
You can do anything. Get off of my blue suede shoes.
That part of the world during that era.
You can RPG my base.
That could provide an explanation
Gas my
of why
troops.
there is a gap there.
Get stuck in the sniper loop.
Well,
do anything that you want to, honey.
Only if
Stay
you
off
have
of
to
my
have
shoes.
the Sphinx in conjunction with 12,000 years ago in the lost civilization. If you just say that rainwater erosion on the Sphinx, it is not an explanation
Oh
of the
man,
age. And
you coming?
traditional
Nope.
accepted
I'm
age
gonna have to intervene.
but we think it is, then there's no gap to fill. So really, all we're talking about is we have, again, lots of evidence here, one anomaly here. We really want the anomaly thing to stick.
Careful.
I got to explain the gap. The gap is
Oh,
explained
man.
by environmental changes.
Yeah, but what is the lots of evidence other than a lot of assumptions? Is it a lot of maybes?
It's all. I mean, actually, can you cite me a single contemporary inscription from the date that the Sphinx is supposed to have been made that refers to the Sphinx?
I'm sorry.
Can you cite a single contemporary inscription from ancient contemporary to the date that Egyptologists ascribe to the Sphinx? In other words, to the reign of Khufu. Can you cite me a single inscription that talks about the Sphinx being built?
This is not, I don't study this area, I don't know.
Okay, well, you can't, because there is no such inscription.
Okay, well, so?
Well, one would have thought there would be.
Well, maybe.
It's a giant project. It's 270 feet long, it's 70 feet high, it's carved out of solid rock. Nothing.
Okay, but you have
no
all
reference
these
to it
other...
at all in the Old Kingdom. You actually have to come down to the New Kingdom to get references to the Sphinx in inscriptions.
So, but you've already said that the pyramids were built at the time we think they were built, not thousands of years
I would say
ago.
that a great deal of work was done on the pyramids at the time of 2500 BC. I think the ground plan was laid out there.
And we have like the step pyramid, which is cruder and not as well designed as the other pyramids. That's a transitional stage at that time.
Often argued to be a transitional stage.
Yeah.
Have you been to the step pyramid, I'm sure?
No, not.
Right, and you've been to Giza.
No, I've never been to
The
Giza.
real song.
Well,
I only know the Elvis version.
I mean, I've climbed the Great Pyramid 5 times.
Well,
and I mean, you're dealing with
Is
something...
that Billie Holiday? No, what's his name again?
In terms of what's required. I mean, this thing weighs...
Twist guy.
Oh, I understand, but...
It's 481
Dude with his
feet high.
orchestra.
It consists of 2.5 million individual blocks of stone. It's a line to true north within 3/60ths of a single degree. I mean, to compare that to Zoser is really not a valid comparison at all. What's more interesting to me is the radical decline that takes place in pyramid building skills in the 5th and 6th dynasty. Go to Unas, go to Pepi, go to Teti at Saqqara.
Here's the
These are a shambles. You can hardly even
mark.
recognize them as a pyramid. What happened to all that knowledge that's invested in the Great Pyramid? Why does Egypt devolve so rapidly? How do we explain this pristine, amazing work that's done on the Great Pyramid unless there's a legacy of knowledge being attached to it?
Okay, so every archaeologist, Egyptian archaeologist and Egyptiologist knows everything you just said.
They do.
And they don't accept any of your arguments. Why not?
That's why I'm needed, because somebody's got to counter this.
Is it just that they're closed-minded and they follow Zahi Abbas and they never think of
Like
themselves?
that.
You want to see a
Oh, I should check that out. Is that like a house record?
But all of them, every one of the Egyptologists and archaeologists over the last 2 centuries and so on.
I can't do it, man. I don't know how.
Closed-minded and they can't see the arguments as clear as you. Or is it they're not convinced by your argument?
They're not convinced by my argument. They genuinely and absolutely believe that their argument is right.
I don't remember.
The notion that I'm proposing is apparently so preposterous to them that it isn't even worthy of consideration, but it is worthy of insults and attacks on me, on my integrity, on my decency as a human being, on my honesty. All of those things get attacked, you know, because mainstream, and that's fine, I'm ready for that. And by the way, I know that archaeologists, academics constantly attack each other all the time. I used to take this stuff personally, but then when I see what they do to each other, the ravaging attack dogs are let loose on any new idea. I sometimes wish scientists would actually look for what's good in the new idea rather than what's bad. But I get why they do look for what's bad.
But in other words, some young graduate student working in that area could make a name for himself by overturning,
My son was a young graduate student at the University of Cardiff studying Egyptology.
Blow up.
He down in his degree because he proposed the possibility that the pyramids and the Sphinx might be or might have older origins. He was impressed by my work. It did him a lot of harm in his degree.
And if
16 minutes should be a heavy wave, but
you haven't answered my point.
saving my stuff, man. Save it, save it.
Mainstream view, your career does not progress as an Egyptologist.
I disagree. I mean,
give me an example.
How is it that we know anything that we know about Egyptology?
Give me an example from Egyptology of somebody who's gone against the mainstream view and been lauded for so doing.
Well, look, we don't believe everything about it that we believed 2 centuries ago.
All right, way to go, Sniper Tower.
Right? How did all that knowledge come about? How did all the change in that science develop?
It really begins with Champollion and the deciphering of the Rosetta Stone.
Here's the 22,000 mark.
There was no mainstream that he was against. There was no the mainstream has taken time to form, and it's very solid now.
I mean,
Egyptologists all sing from the same hymn book. You'll find very little disagreement amongst them on anything.
But this is true in every field. But somehow or another, Einstein managed to make an impact because he turned out to be right.
Well, I'm no Einstein, and I don't know if I'm right, but I'm going to continue to oppose that mainstream. Somebody has to.
He knows Einstein.
Einstein and
all right, well, take paleoanthropology. I mean, it's a completely different field now than a century ago. How did that happen if no one ever accepts new ideas? They do. It happens all the time.
Well, they're being forced to accept Göbekli Tepe, and that's a new idea. You know, we were talking about things taking
Look at them hanging around, fixing each other.
In terms of archaeology,
sad.
We're in the middle of that.
One for the money lyrics.
Essentially in the middle of that with things like Göbekli Tepe.
Man, that puts me back.
Publishing an article about the Younger Dryas possibly being impacted by comets, and that being one of the causes of a mass extinction.
Right, and when
these are all mainstream ideas now.
And when Alvarez proposed the impact hypothesis for the demise of the dinosaurs in 1980, it was ridiculed, but he turned out to be right, and then that became the accepted.
Right, it takes time.
Well, but what was the key turning point?
People are challenging that.
Wasn't the key turning point the finding of the crater? That's what made the difference.
Yeah,
so it's hard to argue with that.
So again, where's your crater?
Well, this is where perhaps we need to bring in our phone a friend. You know, Malcolm Lecomte, one of the Younger Dryas impact scientists. I mean, the point being made is the following. Firstly,
come on, reinforce.
Impacts were on ice. There may have been as many as 4 impacts that they were on the North American ice cap. Some craters have been suggested, for example, very deep holes in the Great Lakes. Other craters have been and will be looked at by the team in the coming months, whether it includes the crater, the Courbetier terrain, and so on and so forth. There are candidates. The crater has not been found yet, but I would be surprised if a crater was easy to find when, you know, the impact is on 2 mile deep ice. And, you know, one of the biggest strewn fields in the world, which is the Australian pectite strewn field, there's no crater associated with that, but everybody accepts the impact proxies. There's enough of them to justify that. And that's what's going on around this impact hypothesis.
So on a related question,
Oh, bad.
civilization is humans, but the megafauna of extinction in North
20
America.
minutes.
So this has been long debated
All right.
before the impact
Get 'em.
hypothesis was proposed. The competing hypotheses were overhunting, humans just hunted them to the point where, not every last one, to the point where the population numbers get too low and these species can't survive. Or climate change, or both. The climate change weakened the populations, then the humans came over and overhunted them. All right, so, and then the impact hypothesis is proposed. Okay, so this was debated, and it didn't fare that well because there were a lot of mammals and other species that didn't go extinct that you would expect from a massive impact like that. It would have wiped out. Why the selected species, the kinds of species that humans would hunt, are the ones that went extinct, whereas these others didn't.
Well, why would humans be hunting?
Almost 30,000 munitions.
There's no evidence that humans
Still have a long time to go to break the record.
That they hunted woolly mammoths, but it's a very sparse. I mean, you have no more than a dozen sites that show association between human hunting and mammoths, and a lot of those, like the Lubbock Lake site, is now being questioned. What was previously interpreted as being butchering marks on the mammoth remains there are now being reinterpreted as possibly natural marks on the mammoth bones. But it's a big stretch to go from, okay, we've got a dozen sites where we have mammoth remains, and along with those mammoth remains, we find a few Clovis spear points. In 2 or 3 cases, we actually find, or they have found spear points embedded within the mammoth, like in the rib cage. But it's a very large stretch to go from there to say that 10 or 12 million
No.
4 species of mammoths on 4 continents
There goes the veteran.
were wiped out by Paleo-Indian hunters.
I have to keep that engineer alive there.
Have you ever been to a head smashed in buffalo site?
Yes,
Bastard.
but that's a good example because nowhere did that go anywhere close to exterminating the species of American
That was
bison.
so close.
But each site has its own particular explanation. Could be hunting, could be a massive flood, earthquake, whatever. They
Could
all
be a
have
massive flood, yes, exactly. I think there you and I would be in complete agreement.
What do we mean by massive? Global versus, local. So, for example, there's 52 mammalian genera went extinct in South America. Why would they go extinct in South America? About the time that humans were moving down there hunting.
The Younger Dryas impact hypothesis includes South America. There were impacts there.
It does, and again, the dating of the migration of humans into South America is controversial at this point. There is evidence that humans were there long before. Paul Martin's idea of blitzkrieg requires that the animals be so stupid that they had no adaptive capabilities to the appearance of a new predatory species. But what is being demonstrated from examining the lifeways of the Paleo-Indian is that they had very diversified diets, and they were hunter-gatherers.
Kill them.
Now, why would they be choosing the largest, most dangerous animals to hunt when they had such a proliferation of other smaller animals? We know that they were foraging. We know that they were eating seafood and fishing, because all of this is being found in the camps. And then it certainly doesn't explain the extermination of, the cave bears, the short-faced bears, the camelops, the giant beavers, the giant armadillos, the American Pleistocene lion, the ground sloths that were the size of giraffes, 4 species of proboscideans, meaning mammoths, extinct on 4 continents. And to me, wait a second. We cannot invoke a modern example to say
It can't take another hit. It cannot take another hit.
Well, that's controversial also.
They drove mallowbirds extinct in
Eagle. Well, that's an assumption there.
If you ask the Maori themselves, between that and people with atlatls killing off all the saber-toothed tigers. And here's another answer to one of your questions. You were saying, like, why would some of the animals be alive? Well, we know that the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs
I'm a believer. Yeah.
Right. That is a massive impact, far bigger than anything we're talking about, and many animals survived that. So we don't know why things survive and why they don't. It could be proximity to the impact. It could be that their food source wasn't removed. It could be that their predators were wiped out and they managed to survive.
No, they must live. No, glitchy game.
Like, for instance, the pronghorn antelope. Pronghorn antelope. Dan Flores, who's a wildlife historian, wrote an amazing book on it. When he was talking about the American savanna during, like 15,000 plus years ago, there was all sorts of crazy animals millions of years ago that were like cheetahs that were running down animals at extreme speeds, which is the reason why pronghorn antelopes can run so much faster than any of their current predators. Something much faster than them was killing them, and that was wiped out, but they managed to make it. One of the reasons why they probably managed to make it is because their predators were wiped out. I mean, it's not an even...
And another point, Michael, if it's overkill, it's intriguing that the overkill occurs, precisely in the Younger Dryas window, because I think you'd agree that now the whole story of the peopling of the Americas is pretty much up for grabs. I mean, Clovis first was the dominant model for a very long time, and under that model we're to envisage these Clovis hunters coming in across the Bering land bridge, going down the ice-free corridor, and then in like 800 years, with their sophisticated points, they wipe out all the mammoths in North America. But now we know that humans have been coexisting and butchering mammoths, coexisting with
bombing run. I'm saving my bombing run, man.
Possibly tens of thousands of years before that.
I mean, from evidence in Siberia?
I don't only mean from evidence in Siberia. I mean, I can cite you from Nature magazine just recently. Huge number. I don't think the Yukon is in Siberia, is it?
No.
Okay, I think the Yukon's in North America. Jacques Cinq-Mars, the excavator of the Bluefish Caves in the Yukon.
Don't need it.
Back in
I
the
don't need it.
Was proposed
Not worried.
Human beings had been in the Americas at least 24,000 years ago. His reputation was utterly
I
destroyed.
would like a new engineer. Maybe I'll fix that
no access to grants. He
by
wasn't able to do his work.
blowing up an
heavily
engineer.
penalized and punished by the community. And now, just a few weeks ago, we have the Smithsonian coming out saying, sorry, you got it wrong. Jacques Cinq-Mars was right all along. And Tom Dillehay, with his work in Monteverde, the shit that he had to take, I think we're in a very interesting time. The peopling of the Americas is really a paradigm that has been overthrown. The notion of Clovis first. Well, you disagree with Smithsonian then, which is fine. I do
no,
too.
the Mesa Verde, it's an anomaly. It's an isolated site. Where are all the sites between Clovis and Monteverde?
Do you honestly think Clovis was still first?
Now this
thousands of years.
is an issue.
And do you think Clovis was still first?
Where are all the people between Clovis and Monteverde?
Not my problem.
It is your problem.
No, it's not my problem. They're there in Monteverde.
It's not my problem.
North America, go figure.
What's more likely?
Diplomatic.
The Denisovan trace in South American Indians and not in North American Indians.
It's like the Nature paper I brought up
Maybe
earlier.
people crossed the ocean.
That there were Neanderthals or humans in San Diego 130,000 years ago. Okay, but when you look at that, okay, so they have mammoth bones. It looks like they might have been broken in the length, okay, and the tools, but they're not. Okay, the tools.
We're kind of changing subjects here, though.
Well, no.
You're trying to quibble the evidence of earlier human
genius.
You're trying to quibble it.
Well, not quibble.
That was a great mind laying there.
What are you saying very specifically that's opposing what he just said?
The reason archaeologists don't accept earlier than Clovis, say earlier than about 13,000, 14,000 years.
It's massively accepted.
Like say Mesa Verde, for example.
Okay, I have to bring up an image.
Why don't they accept Mesa Verde?
They do accept Mesa Verde. It is accepted.
Michael, are you sure about this? As what, 24,000 years?
15 plus, possibly significantly.
Yeah. Okay. So
significantly
15,
older.
So 15 is kind of the outside of the window that humans came across the Bering Strait.
Just peel them off.
Not 24,000.
7.
Not 130,000.
27 minutes.
That Nature paper is right, and that's
46,000.
That does overturn the mainstream.
Munitions.
Sure.
But why would you? This is not like your field of study. Why would you argue against the Nature paper?
Okay, I'll just give you.
Let's quote the Smithsonian.
I ask professionals.
Smithsonian, slide number 5. Today, decades later, the Clovis first model has collapsed. Okay, based on dozens of new studies, we now know that pre-Clovis peoples
slaughtered mastodons in Washington State, dined on desert parsley in Oregon, made all-purpose stone tools that were ice version of the exact
I'll be streaming.
No, look at this.
And then 24,000 years down at the bottom, Michael, you know, are you saying the Smithsonian are wrong on this?
Michael, you're jumping to conclusions before you even read that. You want to be right so badly. You didn't read the part and other animals there. But hold on a second. Confirming that humans had butchered horses and other animals there 24,000 years ago. It says it right there, and you are arguing against it without even reading it, which means you want to be right. No, that's absolutely what's going on.
Because I have no dog in this fight.
Well, why didn't you read that whole thing before you started pointing at you being correct?
You published Skeptic magazine and you have no dog in the fight?
You're asking me, why don't mainstream archaeologists accept...
You should be skeptical.
All right, welcome back.
Tens of thousands... Okay,
30-minute mark. 50,000 credits.
What do you think about what that says? That there's evidence they butchered horses 24,000 years ago.
Okay, I would have to check the site on it. I haven't seen this article.
Well, now that you have seen it.
Not my problem.
Okay,
now that you have seen it,
it is your problem because
it's not my problem.
You're opposing this and you're saying there's no evidence. You haven't even read the fucking article.
Okay, I'm not opposing anything. I'm saying
you certainly are.
This is the reason why scientists accept these dates here, because there's lots and lots of evidence for
that is scientists.
10,000, 11,000, 12,000.
That is scientists.
Then you find one person that says 24,000. Another one, like 2 weeks ago,
this is
that
not
says...
one person. This is very disappointing that you're arguing this without really doing any research about it.
The article is titled, What Happens When an Archaeologist Challenges Mainstream Thinking? That's in the Smithsonian in the month of March.
Okay.
Jack sank Mars. It was a brutal experience.
30
Something that sank
minutes.
Mars once likened to the Spanish Inquisition. At conferences, audiences paid little heed to his presentation, giving short shrift to the evidence, etc., etc., etc. The result was always the same. When he proposed that Bluefish Caves was 24,000 years old, it was not accepted. What the Smithsonian are saying is now, this is accepted. You need to get up to speed with the data, Michael.
Okay. My archaeology friends like Jared Diamond, who I just checked with on this at UCLA.
Well, he certainly has a dog in the fight.
Well, he just says, here's the problem. For 50 years, people proposed pre-Clovis examples or sites or evidence. They never hold up. The dating turned out to be incorrect. The carbon-14 was not calibrated right. There was this, there was that. They never hold up.
So essentially, you're quoting a friend
away for 50 years.
Well, you're quoting a friend who says the evidence hasn't held up before. Yeah. Instead of quoting these articles with these scientists who are talking about the data that's showing the human beings butchered horses 24,000 years ago, you're disputing it just because you talked to a friend.
I'm saying that has to be confirmed. That particular
But why argue against it?
I'm not arguing against it.
You certainly were.
No, I'm just saying that...
Am I wrong?
I feel you were arguing against it and saying that it's not the case and
I don't know.
it, and you seem to be...
Come on, peel off the RPG. Get these RPGs gone.
Put your reputation on the line and say you advocate progress.
I'm not going to put a label on it. I'm going to say in the latest evidence that overwhelmingly shows humans coming across the Siberian Straits into North America 11, 12, 13, 14, 15,000 years ago.
That they definitely did then. They definitely did then.
And now
did they before?
What could push
31.
earlier would be if they came by boat. Okay, so like
now it depends on whether I can get these guys to split up.
Data go back 11, 12,000 years ago. And they came by boat. Now the problem is well, if they lived on the shores, which is where the good fishing and eating is, those are underwater. And short of doing good underwater archaeology, which is hard to do and expensive.
Yeah, you might be right.
We may never know.
It's one of my beefs with archaeology, actually, is that 10 million square miles of the planet that were above water during the Ice Age are underwater now, and marine archaeology is still mainly looking at shipwrecks, you know.
Well, okay. They do that because it's like where the light is.
Well, it leaves a big unanswered question. At any rate, so for the record, can I at least say that you completely oppose the Smithsonian's position on this, that there has been no paradigm shift?
I will look at this. I haven't seen the Smithsonian thing. All right, I'm not aware of the horse find
Here they come.
1,000 years ago. I am aware of the 130,000 year date from the Nature paper.
I have a slide on that too.
Okay, but show the stone tools. They're nothing like Clovis Point. It's just a big, like, hand rock that might have been used. It might have been random.
Sorry, a big hand rock? is all there is before 13,000 years ago?
No, I'm talking about the 130,000-year-old site.
130,000-year-old
you're talking about the San Diego thing.
We don't need to talk about that.
Why?
That raises interesting questions. Was it Neanderthals? Was it Denisovans? Was it anatomically modern humans 130,000 years ago? It raises interesting questions.
Or is it a misinterpreted site because they aren't stone tools?
I'm not pinning anything to that. I'm saying yes. That report.
The question is not
was
necessarily
published in Nature.
just about the stone tools. It's about how the bones were shattered, and they believe the bones were shattered deliberately, indicating that someone was trying to get at the marrow.
Maybe.
Indicating,
or
maybe.
Or a tractor rolled over it a couple of years ago.
No one had excavated. That's just speculation on your part.
Immediately, not my part. This is one of the
immediately defined has been quibbled by the archaeological mainstream. Of course, it's been published by the archaeological mainstream too, and the rest of the mainstream is quibbling it. So we will see how that plays out.
But I thought you said that can't happen.
We will say what can't happen.
That the mainstream won't allow.
It's coming up to 36 minutes.
And the idea is being quibbled.
And here the Smithsonian
Nature certainly would not.
It's okay.
Nature certainly would not have published it if the evidence were not strong. I accept that. Nature not in the business of publishing, fringy stuff. It is a radical proposal, but it's strong enough to justify publication in Nature. What's interesting to me is that the immediate reaction of the archaeological community is not say, well, what could this mean? Let's look into the implications of this. I mean, if there were Neanderthals or Denisovans in North America 130,000 years ago, we have a whole new scenario building here that really should interest everyone. Instead of the first reaction is let's destroy this because it's really annoying. Let's get rid of it. Let's prove it's wrong. Let's suggest that it was a fucking bulldozer or something like that. Maybe it was. I don't know. The work hasn't been done yet. But that instant sort of it's almost like an immune response to an idea that doesn't fit into the prevailing paradigm. The work in the bluefish cage work, that's really
a couple of RPGs took it out.
It's very widely accepted. Clovis first is a discredited and abandoned position. And I have something else to ask you, actually, concerning genetics and DNA.
Coming on to
36
minutes.
Why we have a strong signal of Denisovan DNA in certain groups of South American Indians and in Australian Aborigines and Melanesians. But that Denisovan DNA doesn't crop up in North American Indians. How would we explain that if they all came through the Bering Strait?
I have no idea.
Well, it could be both.
Too early.
This just happens to be something I don't know anything about.
Okay.
So part of the problem of even doing this is that...
It was your idea.
Yeah.
Well, here we are talking. This is good. But part of the risk is that you're going to find something I don't happen to know about. And then it's like, you see, I made my point. What point? So in like the history of the peopling of America, that area, there's always somebody that comes in with, it's not Clovis, it's this, it's that, and rarely do they last. Why? The dates were miscalibrated or whatever. It's not just that scientists are closed-minded, although they can be. It's that the convergence of evidence isn't strong enough to overturn.
You'll get the guy.
Theory.
Get him.
So, but it does happen. Maybe there are multiple migrations into North America, and we just don't have all the sites. But when somebody comes up with a site like that's tens of thousands of years earlier than all the others that are accepted here, and it's over here, where are all the sites in between? It's like the gap, the 5,000-year gap with the Egyptian complex. Where are the sites? If it's true, they didn't fly there. So how'd they get there? Well, and there must be a trail, somewhere that we can find, unless they came by boat, and then that's
okay.
Or unless you're dealing with 24,000 years ago, and there's not much evidence to find.
Maybe.
But if they came by boat, then that clearly implies they had navigational skills. They had the ability to build boats and find their way across the ocean.
You can do the coast. That's not quite as. You don't need a big ocean going.
But you don't need an ocean going. But
this is
hypothesis that they came across by.
This is bombardment territory.
Yeah, you're just 100 feet offshore. You go in and
right.
Most likely both, right? And one of the issues, of course, was the short-faced bear was so formidable, according to Dan Flores, that it would have been a huge impediment for people crossing on foot anyway. And the short-faced bear went extinct right around the time we see more evidence of human beings entering in. But why did it go extinct? That's the big question.
Well, you have to add that to the list of predators that there would have been no reason for humans to have been hunted.
Yeah, well, that's an enormous animal.
So there's sort of two factors that come out here. There's positive evidence in favor of a hypothesis, then there's negative evidence against the mainstream hypothesis. And you really need both So it's not enough to just say, I don't accept the evidence for here.
Wow.
Okay, that's fine.
I have to do another 40 minutes? That's
Well,
insane.
let's speak in specifics, because you keep doing this. You keep saying, well, they find things, and then it turns out, no, that's not true. And then you're essentially like proving your point of being a skeptic without having any real cases. Well, you just keep saying this.
All of the cases.
But no, you're not saying, you can't say all the cases. If you don't want to cite anything specifically, don't keep bringing up things that are refuted, because you don't have anything that you're pointing to. So you're just muddying the water. Okay, you're essentially pissing in the pool.
No,
Don't piss in the pool.
Go back to the pyramids. All of these...
What's been disproved?
No, make it a slightly different point.
That's the problem, is that you're not addressing the actual issues we're talking about. You muddy the water by saying things have been tossed out the window, so we have to be careful here and toss these things out the window as well.
Not toss out, just contemplate them, published in Nature, for example. So let's watch what happens to the 130,000-year-old hypothesis. If it holds up, and there's other sites that are dated that way,
I have a
that will be truly
broadcasting option on my PlayStation, so I linked that to my YouTube account, and I have almost 400 subscribers on there.
It's difficult from a career point of view for archaeologists to come up and propose alternative sites. Those who did, like Tom Dillahay, like Jacques Cinq-Mars.
And then I have a microphone in my controller, which I use to...
So the incentive to go looking for older stuff than Clovis is extremely low in the archaeological community as a result of this ferocious reaction that went on for 30 or 40 or even 50 years. You know, I mean, also consider the Valsequillo excavations in Mexico, where they
hold these guys back.
Some sort of human presence 230,000 years ago. I mean, that good archaeology, but it was utterly dismissed, and the archaeologists involved were ruined.
Welcome, viewers.
It's hard to see how that encourages people.
383 subscribers.
When careers get ruined and research funding gets withdrawn for an idea that doesn't fit the current mainstream hypothesis.
Certainly, we don't like to think that scientists do that. They do that. Are you familiar with Michael Cramo's book, Forbidden Archaeology?
I know Michael. Yeah.
Okay. So now, and he makes.
You have one subscriber. Do you have any uploads?
And, for his humans were here tens of millions of years ago, and you know his book is 900 pages long.
Tens of millions?
Yeah, tens of millions. Okay, and he's a Hindu.
Yeah.
So his idea is this sort of long recycling and
but what evidence is it based on for tens of millions of years?
Oh man, I think this is about time to do some more. Hang on, this. I'll wait. I'm going to wait.
My point is that
Michael Cremo is not me.
That's right. So, but there's lots of alternative archaeology. Again, there's lots of alternative archaeology books and
right. But what evidence is there that supports that?
None.
So why are you bringing up that when there's evidence that he's bringing up?
No, Cramo's evidence is similar to his. Why? Mostly negative evidence. That I don't accept the date of this. There is this peculiar sort of footprint-looking thing in the mud.
Cremo refers specifically to the knowledge filter. The most useful thing about that book is the publication of reports, archaeological reports, which are no longer available to the public, which do suggest...
Let's do it.
I would say it's a very useful book to read. Beyond that, I have nothing to say.
Right. So,
yeah, but that's not necessarily true. You're saying his only evidence... I mean, he's pointing to like some pretty significant evidence. Like the Sphinx thing is a geologist from Boston University proposed this because of water erosion. Because of water erosion that could have only been done by thousands of years of rainfall, in his opinion, as a
spread them out,
geologist. Right? And like, that's not a
knock them down.
I understand, but why do no other geologists or archaeologists?
There aren't other. No,
well,
that's not true.
Actually, they do, and I've had multiple conversations with Robert where he has cited the fact that he has gotten a considerable body of support.
Hold these guys back.
Not from Egyptologists, but from geologists who do recognize the effects of severe water erosion on limestone, carbonate rocks, and that's what we have there. We have a severe water erosion that appears and is preserved on the quarry walls around the Sphinx. The Sphinx itself, as Graham said, is difficult to ascertain because of all of the reconstruction that has gone on. But the quarry walls, which would have once had the very distinct stepped profile of a typical quarry, no longer have that. I mean, they have a textbook profile, parabolic profile that would be consistent with sheet flooding, which would be both dissolution, because carbonate rocks dissolve in acidic waters, and what's called corrosion, which would be the effects of water loaded with sand sediment, which would make it very rough. So if you've got the sand sediment flowing over the edge of what would have been a quarry wall, what you're going to end up with is a smoothing off of the rough corners, and the final result would be a very rounded profile.
No problem.
You would also see where the fissures in the rock would be selectively widened and opened by the water penetrating those fissures. I mean, it has all the earmarks.
Need specials. Give me more specials.
Textbook case of water erosion.
Don't you think it's very disingenuous comparing that to someone who thinks that human beings have been here for tens of millions of years with no evidence to support it whatsoever?
Well, he doesn't say, of course, he doesn't say he has no evidence. He has a 900-page book full of evidence. It's the quality of the evidence.
What about the quality of that evidence?
If it was that good, we're not geologists. If it was that good, why don't geologists look at it and go, he's right?
Well, they do. That's the point.
They do? They all do?
No, they don't all do.
Okay,
Some geologists who work with Egyptologists say that Shock is wrong.
Okay, we have a geologist on the line. Why don't we ask him?
Well, we could have one guy's opinion. We could also have other guys' opinions that we can get.
I mean, this matter has been in the public domain since 1992. It hasn't gone away.
Yeah.
Shock's argument that we are looking at precipitation-induced weathering on the Sphinx has not been debunked. It has been posed.
This base will hold up
that is different from saying it's debunked.
at least another,
solid,
not one more wave,
on that issue.
certainly.
He is a credentialed geologist. He is a professor of geology at the University of Boston. He has a right to speak out about this, and he's stated his view.
Bring the grunts
I happen to find his view
to
very
the front.
especially since it correlates with what I regard as the interesting astronomy of the site. I think
I'll get at least one guy.
Origins that do go back into the Younger Dryas. That's my opinion. I've stated it.
Get at least one guy.
And I've presented the evidence that I think underwrites that opinion. You and your colleagues are absolutely at liberty to disagree, and you do.
You don't think it's disingenuous to compare that to someone who says something that defies our current understanding of human beings and the actual evolution of humans? Okay, you're talking about someone saying
here they
that
come.
Human beings, how many millions of
Here
years
come
ago?
the bastards. I heard it from.
Tens of millions. Well,
They confident. I heard it from. Hey, confident.
Right? But that's we weren't even humans a million years ago, correct?
I mean, there are creationists who think.
Okay, but we're not talking about them. We're talking about Graham Hancock.
I know. But my point was that, so here you have the mainstream scientists, and so it's like there's Graham, he seems so reasonable, but there's 50 like him, and each of them thinks that they're right. They're not.
There's your language. He seems right. So you're
Excuse me.
accusing me of dissimulation. I seem reasonable, but the subtext is that I'm not, and then there's 50 like me. What a patronizing, arrogant, deeply unpleasant and personal approach.
Graham, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it to sound like that. I really don't. Okay, I have a larger point.
Apology accepted.
Yeah, that when you're faced with a bunch of different alternative theories that are coming in, and it's not, it's like, take physicists.
More specials.
Every physicist, like you just had Lawrence Krauss. He gets these letters daily of people saying, I think I figured out why Einstein was wrong. And he can't address them all. And they're smart people, they're thoughtful people, they really believe it. What do you do with them?
Come on, fight.
That's my point.
I feel that's not my problem. And if there are other alternative theories, that's not my problem either. It's the problem for the mainstream to sort it out and figure which to pay attention to and which not.
All right.
Well, I'm suspicious of the whole idea of the mainstream because even looking in the mainstream, you find so many divergent points of view. That,
Spread them out.
You know, I think that's basically a fiction, that there is this mainstream that has arrived at this consensus and that there are no ulterior motives there, and that there are no dogmas that are being perpetuated there. You know, I mean, I look at a lot of the geological stuff and realize that there are many different points of view. When we get to talk about these floods at the end of the last ice age, there are many divergent.
Come on, engineers.
There is what could be considered the mainstream, yet even that has multiple interpretations. And the same with the comet idea. You know, I mean, I don't know what constitutes the mainstream there because there have been a group that has opposed it at every turn, but at the same time, the group that accepts the comet hypothesis has continued to grow. In fact, there's even a number of individuals involved that set
70,000 credits.
Disprove it or discredit it.
70,000 munitions.
And it has grown from being a small handful of scientists to there are now 63 scientists from 55 different institutions.
Wait, do it.
That something remarkable happened at the end of the last ice age. It was probably exit pathogenic, meaning something from outside.
2 medics left.
Space. There's no.
Oh, they broke through.
Exactly what that
They broke through the wall.
Which would be normal because these discoveries are in their infancy at this point. But there's been an attempt to discredit the idea simply because that as the evidence has come in over the last decade,
oh, here they come, and some more.
Opened up as the evidence comes in, and
47 minutes.
Well, there's no consistent interpretation of this evidence, and therefore we've debunked it.
I mean, an example is Pinter's Requiem, Picture of the Dolphin Requiem for the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis. I mean, if I publish a paper in PNAS saying Requiem, suggesting that the impact hypothesis is already dead, that was in 2011. Every single one of Pinter's points have been responded to. Those who are critical of the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis rarely cite the fact that the so-called refutations have themselves been refuted, that new information is constantly coming in. I see a very one-sided game being played here with a group of academics who are determined to demonstrate that there could have been no possibility of anything like a comet impact 12,800 years ago, and that these 63 or 65 scientists who are proposing it are just completely wrong. And when they refute the refutation, that
saved it.
Upon it all. Again, your colleague de Fant has dismissed the Younger Dryas.
Oh, really? Is anything good on TV?
Without actually going in detail into the debate that's gone on.
He has this graph in his paper showing all these different dates for the...
That's from one of the critical papers. You know, there's another side to this argument. So he needs to be...
Come on, save me.
What the other side would say. Well, that's the point where maybe we should have Marc de Fant come on, and maybe we should have Malcolm Lecomte come on as well, because Malcolm Lecomte is actually one of those 63 Younger Dryas impact scientists.
Well, what is... Explain to people that are just listening to this, what is this graph that you're showing?
Well, this is the carbon-14 date ranges from samples taken from the Younger Dryas boundary. So this is the boundary here, and the point of this is that there's not a single consistent series of dates that would consistently show. Yet, absolutely for sure, at every
Give me any more?
right there, is that they bounce around here. Now maybe Mark, this is his area, he could come on and Skype here. And
they bounce around, and what's the point of this for the layperson who's listening to this?
Well, so if you take the ones that are above the gray line, then those are showing that something like an impact happened much earlier or much later, and the ones below it are that it's much earlier. So where's the consistency of a single impact consistent across that middle of that gray line?
I don't think there's any argument there was a single impact. In
Fight.
fact, there's argument.
I think I might break 50 minutes.
One date. We're talking about a stretch of thousands of years and multiple impacts.
The Younger Dryas runs 1,200 years.
Randall, please give me your because you're the expert at this.
Well, these are dates for the Younger Dryas. There's a big spread, obviously, but there's also a lot of possibilities of introducing inaccuracies into the data. What's called the old wood effect can sometimes make it appear to be older than it is by a millennium or two.
I'll give me more specials.
But what we certainly do see
Ultra
here is
kill.
right around 13,000 years ago. That looks pretty evident to me. And everybody knows who does radiocarbon dating that the dating might have errors and inconsistencies in it. The one article
2 sniper towers, 2 machine gunners.
And 25 others was the Bayesian
Maybe the engineer keeps fixing them. Come on, engineer. He's fixing his own tent.
735 calibrated years before present for Younger Dryas boundary on 4 continents.
That's a refutation of precisely what you're publishing.
It is. It's a refutation of this.
But Marc de Fant does not refer to that refutation.
Look at this, engineer. Go for it. Go for it.
The age of Leo.
Help him out. Oh. The last sandbag has fallen. Here they come, man.
67.
Coming to
67.
poo-poo my party.
That refers to the...
Come on, engage.
Slide 167.
Engage the enemy.
Jesus, you're not fucking around. 167 slides.
Come on, man.
There we go. A cosmic impact event at 12,800 calibrated years before present formed the Younger Dryas boundary layer containing huge abundances of multiple high-temperature impact-related proxies, including spherules, no less Nanodiamonds, by Eaton's statistical analysis of 354 dates from 23 sedimentary sequences over 4 continents, established a model Younger Dryas.
And they're waiting again.
Of 12,830.
Oh no, what is he doing?
Present, supporting a synchronicity of the high probability, 95%. This range overlaps that of a planet. Recorded in the Greenland ice sheet end of the onset of
good stuff, man. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm up to 450,000 munitions. That's another 33,000 points to go before I can upgrade one of my items. This is the end of the live stream. I'm gonna go get something to eat and
I don't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Go listen to my podcast, and yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. Unless, of course, it's gonna dump me into level 75. Oh dear, that's always so exciting. No. Well, this is part of the broadcast where I start my sentence like this and end it like this. Thank you for watching, and good night.